DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, we saw you on television. I say, oh yes, on what? On GB News.
Hello, are you the famous Sue? The whole crew hid me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here, right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again.
You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Thursday, the 18th of June. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver. Come on, England, it's coming home.
Yes, England fans are jubilant this morning, or indeed this afternoon even, after Three Lions kick off the World Cup campaign with a 4-2 crushing win over Croatia, while the captain Harry Kane heaped praise on the England manager.
He just told us to let the shackles off, calm down, what are we scared of? Let's just go.
What a result. And GB News presenter Ben Leo, he soaked up the atmosphere in Dallas.
In slightly more sour news, ITV has been accused of sexism after putting football pundit and top female coach Emma Hayes in what looked like a kitchen with a blackboard to do World Cup analysis.
Oh dear, oh dear. And yes, the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. Well, that's the verdict from one Republican senator as Donald Trump faces backlash for signing an initial deal with Iran.
But in a post on Truth Social, the president has blasted critics and anyone who agrees with them as fools.
And the vile killers of 13-month-old Preston Davey, the baby boy, will be given their jail terms today. Is any sentence long enough for what this little baby went through?
Also in a GB News exclusive, a grooming gang victim is warned her abusers might be released from prison early.
Well, yes, Tommy Robinson debates Islam at the Oxford Union, but protesters try to block people from attending.
Yesterday, it was the video game Grand Theft Auto, but now it's been reported civil servants role-played as wild animals such as earthworms and eels in an attempt to bring a voice to non-human species to our meetings. Well, stay tuned for the gory details on that one.
Would you call an earthworm a wild animal? I don't know. Anyway, it's Ladies' Day at Ascot. Oh, this is the best outfits, isn't it? It's one of the highlights of the racing calendar.
Well, it's the best of British fashion, Emily and Tom, and of course the best of British racing. Is the King and Queen going to have a third time lucky with one of their horses running today? Because for the last 2 days they haven't done very well, so let's see what happens. More details shortly.
Elsewhere, the major oak, one of the UK's most iconic trees due to its vast age, size and links to the legend of Robin Hood, is now believed by experts to have died.
And are people to blame?
Now, some breaking news to bring you. The Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee has decided today to hold interest rates at 3.75%. And concerningly for those who worry about the cost of their mortgages, there were 2 votes amongst those on the committee to raise the rate. But instead, those who voted to hold won the day, and rates have been held now for a 4th time in a row.
Yeah, I think a lot of people with mortgages who have to renew them are thinking, why aren't I being offered a mortgage rate at 3.75? They seem to be 5 and above at the moment. Not that I've been looking and worrying. Yes, indeed. Well, we're going to get to lots of news today. We are going to be hearing the sentencing and more from outside the court on this hideous case of the baby Preston. I mean, can any sentence really be long enough?
I think that's what a lot of people will be feeling today. We'll be getting to that sentencing as soon as we have it. But of course, get your thoughts in. gbnews.com/your say is the way, as ever, to get involved with all of the stories we're discussing today. All of that to come, of course, after your very latest news headlines.
Good afternoon, it's 4 minutes past 12. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. We start with that brief breaking news. The Bank of England has left interest rates unchanged at 3.75%. That's after better than expected inflation data, inflation staying at 2.8% in May, the same as in April, and the developing US-Iran peace deal, which economists think did influence that decision. More on that breaking economic news shortly. Elsewhere, US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says America will reimpose a blockade on Iran if the country doesn't comply with the initial terms of the peace deal. His comments come as President Donald Trump and Iran's president have signed an agreement aimed at ending the war between the US and Iran. The framework includes reopening the Strait of Hormuz, a reconstruction plan, and the US moving to terminate sanctions. But the biggest issue, Iran's nuclear program, has not yet been fully resolved, with both sides now entering a 60-day negotiation period. Donald Trump says the deal could prevent an economic catastrophe, but warned America could return to military action if no final agreement is reached. US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth spoke from Brussels.
We'll review what capabilities we need. You know, when the blockade opens fully, we'll step back and allow commerce to flow. But if Iran doesn't comply, then we're more than able to reimpose an ironclad blockade. We've had basing in that region for a long time. A lot of that will stay just as it is, and we'll look at how many troops we need in the area and calibrate accordingly.
Well, Britain's new Defence Secretary has also been at NATO this morning. Dan Jarvis says the alliance is meeting at a moment of challenge as NATO pushes members to set out clear plans to raise defence and security spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. It's as 16 people have been injured in Ukrainian drone attacks in Moscow, which forced the closure of the city's airport. In other news, the Church of England has apologised for the pain, trauma and stigma caused to those affected by historical forced adoption. Archbishop of Canterbury, Dame Sarah Mullally, said the impact on families had been lifelong for many and noted survivors having spoken of the indignity they faced. In a direct message to survivors, she said, "You have nothing to be ashamed of. The shame is ours." Campaigners said there'd been a lack of consultation on the apology, with one group branding the statement an insult to survivors. Others have welcomed the apology as a first step on a long road to redemption for the Church of England. Resident doctors in England will vote on whether to accept a new government deal on pay and jobs after a planned 4-day strike was called off at the last minute. The package includes an average 6.6% pay rise, standard contract terms for locally employed doctors, and 4,500 extra specialty training places over 3 years. If doctors accept the deal, the current strike mandate will end, but if they reject it, the union says industrial action will continue and may intensify. Polling stations are open in Makerfield after a by-election was triggered by the resignation of MP Josh Simons. 2 Scottish by-elections are also taking place in Arbroath and Broughty Ferry and Aberdeen South. A UK-funded scheme encouraging migrants to rebuild their lives in North Africa rather than cross into Europe is being expanded into Libya. The programme will receive £9 million extra in support for Egypt, Algeria and Tunisia. It aims to help people who've fled war and humanitarian crises settle closer to their home region, while supporting countries hosting large numbers of displaced people. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper says migration is a global challenge that needs international cooperation. Around 200 lives in England have been saved so far thanks to a vaccine against cervical cancer, a new study suggests. A report funded by Cancer Research UK and led by Queen Mary University of London shows the HPV vaccine is working to help wipe out cervical cancer across the country. Between 2020 and 2024, there were no deaths from cervical cancer in women aged 20 to 24 in England for the first time. The jab was introduced for girls in 2008 and 2019. For boys. And England fans have been celebrating across the country after the Three Lions launched their World Cup campaign with a 4-2 win over Croatia. Supporters packed pubs, fan zones and homes for the opening match. Harry Kane scored twice in a chaotic first half, with Croatia twice pulling level before the break. But Jude Bellingham restored England's lead just 2 minutes after the restart before Marcus Rashford wrapped it up late on. Sir Keir Starmer called it a fantastic result and a performance to be proud of. Those are your latest GBNews headlines. Now a quick look at the markets.
Going through the ceiling, finding the floor. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GBNews Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.32 and €1.15. The price of gold is £3,223 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,407 points.
GBNews Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past midday. Now, England, of course, kicked off their World Cup journey with a 4-2 win over Croatia in Dallas, Texas, with Harry Kane scoring twice, as Jude Bellingham and Marcus Rashford also found the net.
Yes, thousands of England fans braved the Texas heat and the eye-watering ticket prices to cheer on Thomas Tuchel's side.
But who'd have thought it, that in Dallas there were plenty of GB News fans?
You're everywhere.
Take a listen.
Keep abreast of English news. GB News has transformed the media in the British.
There you go.
Yeah,
clip that up for social media. $20, mate, coming after this. I live in Atlanta. I watch you online. Oh, thank you so much. We appreciate you. How you doing? Good to see you.
News.
Up the GB News. How you doing? How you feeling after the game? 4-2. West London.
QPR,
good man.
Out of Q, up the Aidan McGee, and we drove over.
GB News, the best news channel in the world.
Cheers, mate.
I didn't organise this. It's all organic.
Channel in the world.
We got a one-way ticket, me and him.
Best channel in the world. Love to hear it. And they may have been a bit merry, but, you know, the truth comes out. Well, in vino veritas, eh?
In vino veritas, absolutely. Well, why don't we speak to someone who has been hosting a pretty amazing England watch party, and that is, of course, a landlord. Yes, Paul Wells is owner of the Railway Tavern in Sandford. Paul, thanks indeed for joining us, and fantastic garb you're in too. What did you make of last night?
It was a great performance by England. It's a bit of a surprise, really, because we normally start off tournaments slowly. But, yeah, it was a good spectacle for the fans and good party atmosphere here.
Hang on, where are you at the moment?
I'm sitting in front of our grandstand in Dereham in Norfolk.
Oh, fantastic stuff. So what did you do to celebrate? What was the mood like with everyone last night?
Real party atmosphere right from the word go, really. I think everyone's looking for a reason to get together, get the community together. So yeah, it was a real knees up.
And it didn't matter that it was quite late into the evening. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't believe how late it was going on, this game. And I think some people were perhaps a little sore-headed this morning.
I think there's a few sore heads, certainly in Dereham. Yeah, I think there's a few sick days, I think, today.
How many pints do you think the average punter had?
I wouldn't like to guess. There's some obviously had more than others, but I would say an average of 6 or 7 pints each.
Wow. That's a proper game. But I suppose what was so magical about last night was that it was like almost a film where you get to the midpoint and it could go either way. The fact that Croatia managed to get 2 in before half-time, and it was 2-2, and you just had that moment, and you can almost imagine it. I mean, Harry Kane was talking about this after the game, where he was saying that it was the inspirational speech from Thomas Tuchel that said, you know what, if we're going to lose this thing, we're going to lose this our way, in glory and dignity and in whatever else. And this spurred them on to then have the most incredible second half. You couldn't have written it better.
No, I think German efficiency definitely shone through. I think whatever he said to them at half-time really hit home, and they came out second half a different team. The defending first half was a bit hit and miss, but for both sides. So, yeah, the best team won on the night, definitely.
OK, Paul Wells, thank you very much indeed. You're the owner of the Railway Tavern. I hope you have a fantastic tournament. And, yes, come on, England. Come on, England.
Absolutely. I do really like this narrative structure that was built last night. I think I'd be really worried if England were too far ahead too early, because you'd think, hang on, that's not how films work. In films, in any good film, the heroes are always at a setback until about the midpoint, and then they have to be the underdogs and come back. If we were too ahead in that first half, I think it would have gone a lot worse.
Well, it's got to be a good story, hasn't it? We like a good story. Anyway, did you see, Tom, that on ITV, Emma Hayes, who was the pundit there, was placed in a set that looked very much like a kitchen, and she had a little blackboard and a little white piece of chalk, and people are making fun of her because it looked like she was playing noughts and crosses, and it looked like she was in a kitchen. So now there's a massive sexism row engulfing ITV. I mean, what were they thinking?
What were they thinking, especially as they spent so much money building this studio out there in New York, in Brooklyn, looking over to Manhattan. I mean, just the most incredible... They must have spent so much money on this. The BBC are doing this all from Salford, whereas ITV flew out across an ocean to a different continent to build this incredible extravagant set, and then they stuck a woman in a kitchen.
Yes, people are asking whether male pundits like Gary Neville would face such a situation. Can you imagine Wayne Rooney doing his punditry from a little kitchen set?
I don't think Wayne Rooney's ever been in a kitchen in his life.
No, I imagine he's a bit of a takeaway man. Anyway, shall we move on?
Shall we? Yes, and do get your thoughts in on that. gbnews.com/yours.
Yes, is it sexist to have put her in the kitchen? Perhaps you don't even think females should be commentating on the male sports. I know there are a lot of men like that out there.
Gosh, well...
Tom?
Well, I think...
You're happy for the women to get involved?
Yes.
Good.
They clearly... Anyway, let's move on to foreign policy now, because the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. That's the verdict from one Republican senator against President Donald Trump.
Yes, he's facing backlash from his own party after signing this initial deal with Iran aimed at ending the war.
Well, the president signed the Memorandum of Understanding at the Palace of Versailles, no less.
Yes, the temporary agreement will see the Strait of Hormuz reopen and an end to fighting on all fronts, but the final deal is yet to be hashed out.
Well, let's discuss it now with the special correspondent at the Daily Mail and author of Nuclear Iran, David Patrick Karakos. David, thanks indeed for joining us. There's a lot of reporting about what is actually in this quote-unquote deal, or perhaps it's better described as a deal to make a deal in 60 days. But, David, could it really be the case that America is unleashing hundreds of billions of pounds, of dollars, to give to the Iranian regime?
Well, it does appear that way. I mean, as you rightly say, it's a memorandum of understanding, a memorandum of points that should go into a deal. A lot is unclear. You know, Trump has famously touted it as a deal to ensure Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, something Iran has always said it never wanted to do. But there is a talk of around $200 billion being unfrozen. Now, the US is absolutely at pains to say that not a penny of that will come from the US, but it might be, for example, that it will allow the Emiratis to build a power plant for the Iranians in Iran, which Iran badly needs. Its infrastructure is terrible. Now, you know, Iran still remains largely closed. We know it took a complete hammering during the, as they're calling it here in the Middle East, where I am right now, the 40-day war. And the infrastructure that took a hammering is the infrastructure they care about, guys. It's military installations, IRGC facilities. It's not civilian homes that they don't care about. So right now, this looks like an utter capitulation. And the more so because, as we know, Trump lambasted Obama for years about the JCPOA. This is worse. Now, I will say one thing. You know, everyone's rightly pointing out that it was signed at Versailles, where the Germans abjectly surrendered. I would point out, though, that Versailles also has another meaning. It's a treaty was signed there that ultimately didn't hold. I'd be very surprised if this holds in all elements. Look, one thing that's really, really a win for the Iranians and a real capitulation and throwing their ally under the bus is that there has to be peace on all fronts. And that's clearly an Iranian insistence that the Lebanese border has to remain quiet, which means that Hezbollah will do what it always does and fire repeatedly at Israel. And then the Israelis are supposed to not respond. So this is an utter capitulation on the face of it right now. But will it hold? That's another story.
Well, yes, it doesn't look like the Israelis are very happy at all. In fact, quite the opposite. But in terms of how this compares to the original war aims of Donald Trump, how does it compare?
Well, I think it's a disaster. Look, the problem is this, that in the end, you can only assess a war, as you correctly point out, what are its aims. It doesn't matter if you hammer your enemy repeatedly. If Donald Trump, you know, what we saw during the 40-day war was actually at the narrow tactical level, an incredibly sophisticated, targeted military operation that took out the regime, degraded its capabilities. But on the first day, Donald Trump gave them a gift and said, this is about regime change. The second he did that, the Iranians had to do one thing and one thing only, survive. And every day they survived, they could say we're winning, and then the whole global discourse moved towards them. Because don't forget, the Iranians benefit from what I call the despot's dividend, the advantages dictatorships have when they fight democracies, one of which is they shut down the internet, they closed off their country. So we couldn't hear the Iranians moaning at their government. Instead, the whole world was hammering Donald Trump, and so it proved that the Iranians strengthened day by day. So in terms of the war aims that he himself set out, this is an unmitigated disaster. Really, I'm trying to find anything positive in it. I guess for the moment it does stop fighting, it does open the Straits of Hormuz, but by opening the Straits of Hormuz, you're putting, they're putting the situation back into what it was before the start of the war. So where are we really?
So it looks like Iran has really won this war. They've got a lot more out of this agreement, tentative though it is. Was there ever a point where Donald Trump could have pulled out and actually claimed victory here? Perhaps after those initial strikes, after the Ayatollah had been killed, if he'd just done that and nothing more, this would be a very different conversation.
100%. It goes back to what he said. Look, if he had said in very Trumpian language, we're going to degrade this regime like it's never been degraded in history, we're going to take out its leaders, and stopped at that, everyone would have gone, oh my God, this is amazing. We've never seen such intelligence penetration. Don't forget, they were targeting the leaders everywhere from the sky. You know, the Iranian security services were so utterly penetrated, they were demoralized. But because he didn't say that, because he said it's about regime change, and I've said till I'm blue in the face, until there's an organized opposition with a leader that's an alternative. Any regime change will always be a transfer of power within the regime. And so it's proved this is a depressing day for the world and a very, very happy day for the regime.
And a lot of people saying it's even more hardline now, which is quite incredible to imagine. David, we should just put what the United States president has said in just a couple of hours ago, saying, these fools who think I haven't been tough enough on Iran when the stock market just hit a record high, oil prices are tumbling down, are either jealous, bad people or stupid. Make America great again, President DJT. There you go. There's Donald Trump's right of reply.
Well, David, what do you make of that?
I mean, OK, sure. I mean, it's very Trumpian, doesn't really mean anything, doesn't change anything that I said in terms of my analysis. This is bad.
Stocks are up, though. Stocks are up.
That's true. But, I mean, you know, that's because everyone's relieved that there looks to be an end in sight. I mean, stocks are up, but I guess they were probably quite disrupted, so was the oil price, by the war in the first place, right? So what actually has got better?
Well, let's hope something gets, decided in the next 60 days that might actually benefit the United States and Israel over the Iranian regime. But David Patrick Karakos, we'll have to leave it there. Really appreciate your time. Special correspondent at the Daily Mail and author of Nuclear Iran. Perhaps you at home disagree. Perhaps you think this is the best that Donald Trump could have done. That is a sticky situation, and we weren't helping enough. The allies weren't helping enough. He had very little support, didn't he?
It's a warning sign, isn't it? For democracies when they fight autocracies. As David was explaining, the sort of autocrat's dividend, like, if you don't have to care about what your people think of the war, you can do all sorts of things that might disadvantage your side but disadvantage the other side more. You don't care about the economic implications, you don't have democratic constraints, whereas Donald Trump had to, in the end, consider all of those things. As the price of oil and gas in the United States rose, support for his war fell, and his ability to manoeuvre decreased.
Yeah, and if Israel isn't allowed to retaliate against hostile states on its borders, that's not feasible, is it?
No.
It's not feasible to Israel. Anyway, it is time for the Great British Giveaway, and it's £76,543 and 21 pence. Here's Hayley Sparks to tell you how.
There's just 2 weeks left to make your summer sensational, as we're giving you the chance to win a simply stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash. That's cash that could go towards family treats, spectacular summer days out, or give you the chance to chill out and relax somewhere like here, the Imperial Island Resort in Paphos. You really could be our next big winner with a whopping £76,543 and 21 pence in your bank. But hurry, there's just 2 weeks remaining.
For a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and good luck indeed. Lots more coming up on today's programme.
Yes, the Church of England has told birth mothers and children affected by historical forced adoptions that it is profoundly sorry for its role in the practice. Yes, thousands of mothers were pressured to giving up their babies for adoption because they were unmarried. We'll bring you all the details.
But after the break, in a GB News exclusive, a grooming gang victim is warned her abusers might be released from prison early. Stay tuned for the details on that one.
Yes, all of that to come. You're GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Harwood. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 12:28. You're watching Good Afternoon Britain. Now, a Bradford grooming gang survivor has been told that the men who abused her may be let out of jail early.
Yes, Fiona Goddard was one of several child victims in a case which saw 7 men convicted of grooming and sexual abuse offences back in 2019.
Well, GB News national reporter Charlie Peters joins us for more on this exclusive. Charlie, remind us what this woman went through, and how long have the men who were convicted been in prison at this stage?
Well, they were sentenced in 2019, some of them for 12 or 16 years. Some have actually already been released, and others been re-imprisoned for separate offences. So it's... If I talk through all 7, I'll be here all day. But they were a grooming gang in Bradford, and they did some heinous and horrible crimes. But Fiona has now had a letter, this victim, to say that some of those offenders may be up for early release in September of this year, because the Sentencing Act passed earlier this year has changed the rules on how release is managed. So they've now got something called the progression model. This will change all sentences into 3 different times. There'll be the custody period, there will also be intensive supervision, and then what the government are calling the final licence period, where they're still under a sentence which is being licensed and managed in the public. So for Fiona, that has meant that some of those offenders who were jailed in 2019, they could have their sentences cut from 67% down to 50% in terms of how much time they need to serve, or from 40 or 50 down to just 33% for some offenders. Those are the changes that are taking place. Obviously, this has been met with quite a lot of concern. In fact, Fiona told me it was a slap in the face, and she said it didn't feel like justice was being done for her.
So if one of the perpetrators was sentenced for 12 years, they could be out in 4?
I think, yeah, if they were sentenced for 12 years, down to 6 would be, from the 50%, could be down to 33%, could go down to 4. But for some serious offences, judges require 2/3 of sentences to be served, particularly for crimes like rape, so that can go down to 50% now. So that is more likely to be the case in these examples. But One of the concerns we've got here, and this was raised by Nick Timothy in a letter he wrote to the government yesterday, which he shared with GBNews, who was also aware of this case, is that one of the ordeals they're facing now, these victims, is they don't know, Emily, to answer the question, will it be, in that example, 6 or 4 years, because they've got months of waiting now until they get further clarification from their victim liaison officers.
And Charlie, as you mentioned, one of that gang of abusers who had already been released, presumably on a lesser sentence, has already reoffended. I mean, there are going to be people who think, what on earth is going on here? When the government announced its early release scheme, it said that offenders serving sentences for serious sexual offences, domestic abuse, terrorism offences, other ones like that, would not be considered for this scheme. I mean, do they not think that rape gang perpetrators are serious sexual offenders?
Well, that's the question that Nick Timothy is asking today in that letter, because when there was a parliamentary debate on these changes earlier this year, the sentencing minister said that offenders who had committed the most serious and heinous crimes would not benefit from the changes. But there's no clear definition of what a serious, heinous crime is. Now, I understand from what the Ministry of Justice is approaching this on is that they will carve out restrictions for terrorist offenders and some specific national security charges and convictions as well, but perhaps not for some of these crimes as well, which has led to Nick Timothy asking in this letter, does this not count as some of the most serious and heinous offenders? Several other victims have also received these letters as well. Fiona has shared hers and spoken to us about this because she recognises how big of an issue this is and how many more will be affected. So this is not going to be an isolated example.
Well, good on her. I mean, trust in the system. I mean, when you look at a sentence, when we hear a sentence these days, you think, oh, they'll be out in half of that.
Yeah.
Or a third now.
Or a third,
Yeah.
even. I mean, it's just crazy.
What bravery as well from her, because, I mean, she doesn't have to go public. She doesn't have to have her name back out there again and all the rest of it. But there will be so many other victims, countless other victims, who are sitting there worried, who've had a letter through their door and just don't know where to turn to.
And let's also think, that's completely correct, and let's also think of those who have seen their offenders released already and live with that fear of them being in the community.
Oh, yeah, the road next door or whatever.
Back in the town where they were abused, which is one of the more shocking elements of this crisis more generally. But just to that point, the government do say they're going to have a lot of electronic monitoring of perpetrators once they're released. That's already come under a lot of criticism more recently from other investigations into how effective that system is. So many questions to be asked. Perhaps that they've inherited a broken system, but is this not breaking it more?
Well, Charlie, thank you for bringing this to light. Now, a Ministry of Justice spokesperson has said the government inherited a prison system in crisis and we are fixing it, building 14,000 more prison places, reforming sentencing so that we can always lock up dangerous criminals. Without this decisive action, prisons would have run out of space entirely, putting the public at untold risk.
They continue. Under our changes, prisoners who misbehave can face longer behind bars, and those convicted of the most serious crimes will be excluded from earlier release. We're also strengthening supervision in the community, investing £700 million into probation, recruiting 1,300 additional probation officers this year, and ensuring every prison leaver is tagged unless there is clear reason not to.
OK, well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up. Yes, the vile killer of 13-month-old Preston Davey, the little baby boy, will be given his jail terms today. Is any sentence long enough?
All of that and more to come after your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 12:34. US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says America will reimpose a blockade on Iran if the country doesn't comply with the initial terms of the peace deal. His comments come as President Donald Trump and Iran's president have signed an agreement aimed at ending the war between the US and Iran. The framework includes reopening the Strait of Hormuz and the US moving to terminate sanctions. Elsewhere, Britain's new Defence Secretary has arrived at NATO talks in Brussels. Dan Jarvis says the alliance is meeting at a moment of challenge as NATO pushes members to set out clear plans to raise defence and security spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. Former teacher, 37-year-old Jamie Varley, is to be sentenced for the murder and abuse of Preston Davey, an adopted 13-month-old baby. His partner, John McGowan Fazza-Kelly, will also be sentenced for allowing the death of a child, sexual assault and cruelty. Elsewhere, the Church of England has apologised for the pain, trauma and stigma caused to those affected by historical forced adoption. Archbishop of Canterbury, Dame Sarah Mullally, said the impact on families had been lifelong for many and noted survivors having spoken of the indignity they faced. And polling stations are open in Makerfield after a by-election was triggered by the resignation of MP Josh Simons. 2 Scottish by-elections are also taking place in Arbroath and Broughty Ferry and Aberdeen South. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More at 1 o'clock.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Civil servants are role-playing as wild animals, including such species as earthworms and eels.
How do you role-play as an eel?
Well,
Perhaps
you
we
can
give
show
it a
us
go.
after the break, can't you?
Well, this is all in an attempt to bring a voice to non-human species to civil servant meetings.
There's an
Stay
earthworm.
tuned for the details on that one.
Yeah, it looks like a civil servant, doesn't it? Anyway, all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Some parts of the UK are going to turn much hotter over the next few days, but for others, a lot of cloud to talk about for today and heavy rain in places because we've got this wriggling weather front that will continue to bring bouts of wet weather to northern parts of the country. To the south of that, rising temperatures and a humid feel. Some sunshine for the far southeast of England, but otherwise a lot of cloud across the UK. Some spots of rain for central and southwestern parts, but it's northern England, North Wales, Northern Ireland, and much of Scotland where we'll see the heaviest and most persistent rain, some rumbles of thunder as well. So a wet day in places, but a muggy day for all of us with temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s towards the south and southeast. That could spark 1 or 2 thunderstorms in the far southeast by the end of the day. But for Scotland, well, here it's just cloudy, it's damp for many, the rain turning more showery rather than more persistent. Potential for 1 or 2 thundery showers across Northern Ireland through the day and the evening. Northern England, much of Wales, a similar theme. A lot of low cloud, it has to be said, covering the hills and affecting the coasts of the north and west of the UK. So quite dreary, quite gloomy in places, and that continues overnight. The north and west seeing a lot of cloud hugging the hills, causing some sea mist, and then more persistent rain returns to Ireland, Northern Ireland, much of Scotland. Meanwhile, England and Wales mostly dry, rather cloudy, and a warm feel overnight and uncomfortable night for sleeping. Some reasonable sunshine in the east and southeast during the morning, increasingly so, and that will allow temperatures to quickly rise through the morning. A stark contrast to the northwest of the UK, where we'll see further cloud, further rain, and again some rumbles of thunder. Feeling muggy everywhere, but the highest temperatures will be in the east of England, 31 Celsius possible.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the A19 northbound at Stockton-on-Tees, a broken down vehicle is closing one of 2 lanes on the exit slip to the A689. In Norfolk, the A47 westbound is shut between junctions with the A1074 and the A1075 after a serious collision involving multiple vehicles. Meanwhile, the M25 clockwise entry slip at junction 12 has 1 lane closed due to a broken down vehicle. Worcestershire's M5 northbound at junction 4A is running with 1 lane restricted because of a crash. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways face disruption on various routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 20 to 1, and this year we're celebrating 5 years of GB News. Yes, on the 6th of August, we'll be holding events across the country, and we want you to join us.
Yes, so do save that date, 6th of August, this year, this summer. It is the 5-year anniversary of this wonderful GB News station, and if you want to be the first to hear about the day's plans and how to get involved, do scan the QR code on the screen or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. It's going to be fun.
Yes, that's gbnews.com/celebrate.
Easy to remember. Anyway, back to the earthworms. Yes, DEFRA civil servants, so those are the ones working in the Department for the Environment, are reportedly role-playing as wild animals such as earthworms, such as eels and kingfishers in an attempt to bring a voice of non-human species into meetings.
Well, joining us now is the news reporter at The Times who broke this story, Bill Curtis. Bill, thanks for joining us. I couldn't believe my eyes when I read this.
Yeah, it's utterly bizarre and probably the most interesting story I've ever written, because it's DEFRA civil servants role-playing as earthworms, and actually some of them didn't even get an animal at all. One of them got an oak tree to play as. I mean, what on earth is happening? And, you know, it comes after the reports in the Telegraph of other civil servants being paid to play GTA to better understand people, and it forms part of this policy lab which people in government are now moving to try and get rid of. And over 7,000 civil servants have put part in initiatives like these. And, you know, I think people at home are probably looking at it and thinking, you know, why can't we give more money to defence? But here we are letting civil servants, you know,
Bill,
earthworms in.
What has your source told you about this, how this played out? I mean, were these civil servants sort of put in groups, so there was like an eel group, a kingfisher group, an earthworm group, or were they dressing up, or were they just sort of acting like an earthworm? What exactly took place here? I want to kind of imagine it.
Well, the Labour SPAD I was talking to yesterday before publishing the story was really hammering down at the Tories, because this was in 2024 when they were obviously in charge, and apparently no ministers were involved in signing it off. It looks like it's just been done internally in the civil service. And, you know, while they're moving to turn it around and not let civil servants do these kind of things, it could be an earthworm too far.
Well, what was the stated purpose for this? These presumably pretty educated people sitting in a circle, pretending to be critters, woodland and otherwise. What was it for?
Well, it was part of reimagining the water system in 2043, and it was a 2-day event, and over 80 people attended. And while we don't know exactly word for word what was taught there, another thing I was looking at just before I came on today was a skull. It was a picture of a skull, and saying that it was going to be future compost underneath the systems and land in our country. And I just still can't get to the bottom of what the actual purpose was.
Yeah.
I mean, surely some civil servants. A skull and it says the future of compost, and it's worms going inside of a human skull.
This is an amateur dramatic society. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio.
At least they went into the office, Tom, though.
This is true. I suppose they did. This wasn't on Zoom, was it, Bill?
No, you had to go and attend a house. I forget the name. I think it was in Bedfordshire somewhere.
It was a trip.
An away day to pretend to be
an away day. Bill Curtis, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your report. It's eye-opening.
Absolutely.
Revealing.
Oh, very
anyway,
good.
Yes, I'll think of some better puns for later in the show.
Yeah, Bill Curtis, news reporter at The Times. Thanks very much.
Now, the Cabinet Office has said in response to this, we are reforming the civil service to create a cost-conscious culture that relentlessly roots out waste, drives efficiency and protects taxpayers' money. We're currently looking into this initiative. OK, maybe next year there won't be any of these eel workshops.
Fingers crossed. Or maybe we should do one of our own.
I would love to. I would like to be something better than an earthworm, though.
I think I'd quite like to
Like a
be
lion or something.
toad.
Yeah, you look a bit toadish.
I've got a friend. I've got a friend.
You're too slim to be a toad.
I've got a friend who insists that people fall into two categories. All people on this earth: rats and toads. Although I think I'm more rattish than toadish.
What am I?
I think you're mousy.
Oh. Thank you for not calling me ratty.
Well, no, I thought because I don't know. I think a mouse is more feminine than a rat. I think. Yeah.
Anyway, let us know if you're a rat or a
Although
toad.
Ratty in Wind in the Willows is a wonderful character.
Right, would you role play as an earthworm? Let us know. Anyway, lots more coming up.
How anthropomorphic are you feeling?
The major oak. Now, this is one of the UK's most iconic trees because it's so big and it has links to the legend of Robin Hood, and it's believed by experts to have died, and it could be people's fault.
It could be accidental do-gooders not doing so good. But if you're in search of some holiday sun somewhere where they don't kill their trees, here's the weather in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat across some parts of Western Europe will continue to build and spread further north and eastwards through the next few days. Not everywhere seeing the exceptionally high temperatures, but across some parts of Spain into France, temperatures will be around 10 degrees above average for the time of year. And whilst there will be a lot of sunshine around, with that heat and humidity, do watch out for a few thundery showers that are likely to kick off. More sunny and hot weather to come into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
But there's a huge amount of psychological evidence. There's lots of theories about when people make decisions and follow them with actions, their behaviour becomes consistent with the choice they made. So if you get married, you're more likely to see each other with rose-tinted spectacles, that kind of thing. The signal value of marriage is absolutely huge. I was talking to a young couple who are newly engaged just the other day, and they said it was amazing how it actually changed the way that they felt about their relationship. So it does provide extra security, and doing it in front of your friends makes a huge difference as well. It holds you to account. So there's a huge psychology behind the act of marriage. So it would be weird if there wasn't any effect at all. I found that your family background, so your age, your education, income, affects about half of your chance of staying together.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The art world has lost its darling, probably the most respected, celebrated, influential artist of the 20th and 21st century. And as you say, career spanning 7 decades, whether you're looking at his portraits or his Californian swimming pools or his spectacular Yorkshire landscapes, he made art for the people. The art world can be a rather snobby place, which is unfortunate at times, but he made art for the people. If you think about the portraits, the people that he painted, whether it be Mr. and Mrs. Ossie Clark, the fashion designer, and Percy the cat, or Harry Styles, or a portrait of his carer.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, I'm going to try and explain what SpaceX is. It's set to become one of the most valuable companies in the world. But it's not just about rockets. Everyone will be aware. OK, well, it'd be really nice if Elon Musk could could help us out with our tech here, because I'm trying to draw a rocket and we're not able to. What is going on? I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm afraid our very own. Let's see. No, we're not. I'll try and explain what's going on with SpaceX without any visual aids. How disappointing! It's 3 companies really. It's a rocket company, it's a communications company, and it's an AI company, all in one. It controls 84% of the commercial launch market in this country.
GB News, the People's Channel.
OK, good afternoon, Britain. We have some breaking news to bring you and a warning. This contains content that viewers and listeners may find distressing.
Jamie Varley, a former teacher, has been sentenced to life in prison with no parole after the murder of his 13-month-old adopted son, Preston Davey, whom he subjected to sustained sexual abuse.
Yes, we'll bring you more on that report very shortly from Preston Crown Court. We are there.
Well, in a victim impact statement, Preston Davey's mother said this.
Every single day I live with the unimaginable pain of knowing what he went through. They haunt me when I sleep. You have not only taken Preston's life, you have devastated mine and his sister's.
She continued, every day moments that should be happy are now filled with pain. They bring back the reality of what you did to him. I carry grief, guilt and heartbreak every single day.
You were failed by the very people who were supposed to protect you. All I can ask now is the seriousness of what was done to my son can be recognised.
Well, in a further impact statement, Preston Davey's foster parent, Sandra Cooper, delivered this to the courtroom.
His death has had a huge impact on our lives. My husband Paul and I have continued to foster children to protect them. We now feel anxious and mistrustful of all the children we have had in our care.
I often dream about Preston and feel that he is alive. I then wake up and realise he has died and go through all that trauma again.
He was wonderful, happy and lit up any room. He will always remain in our thoughts.
Well, we're going to bring you some more on that, of course, as the programme develops.
Those statements really, they're hard to read, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, it is the most unimaginable, unspeakable evil that took place.
13 months old, the little baby boy.
Yeah.
Total innocence, just to be... just the destruction of a life like that.
Well, we've had a statement from the government, a spokesperson for which have said, this is a sickening case of evil abusers exploiting a vulnerable child. The public rightly demand answers about what went wrong, and we can assure them that we will make sure everyone responsible for negligence faces consequences.
This is exactly why this government has brought in the most far-reaching child protection reforms in a generation, including with a new law, the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Act, which requires social workers, health professionals and the police to work together better to protect vulnerable children at risk of abuse. We're also introducing a new child protection authority in England to oversee the national picture.
The statement continues. An independent review has now been commissioned by the local authorities, and the Independent National Child Safeguarding Practice Review Panel will work with them to get to the bottom of this horrifying case. The reviewer will publish their findings as soon as possible.
It's just so dreadful, this story from start to finish. This poor little boy, these two men who adopted him and then inflicted months of abuse, sexual, psychological, physical abuse until he passed away, until he died.
I mean, there were so many opportunities to intervene here.
Yeah.
8 occasions that have been identified where authorities could have asked questions, at the very least, could have stepped in, could have saved this boy from more abuse and from his eventual murder. The fact that these monsters took this baby boy into hospital not once but multiple times. The authorities saw the bruises, the broken arm, the signs, the clear signs of abuse, and didn't connect the dots.
Yeah, I think there has to be accountability from people who just did not do their job in the way that they should have done. I mean, they said these two men were highly manipulative. Of course they must have been, to abuse a child like this, but there needs to be some accountability, and I do hope they throw away the key, frankly.
Well, that news is, of course, a whole life order, so no chance of parole. This horrific murderer will be in prison for the rest of his life.
And John McGowan Vazacurley, 32 years old, has been jailed, this is the other man, has been jailed at Preston Crown Court for 25 years for sexual assault and allowing the death of his adopted baby, Preston Davey.
So there we go, 2 sentences now handed down to those 2 individuals involved with the murder. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, lots more to come.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Some parts of the UK are going to turn much hotter over the next few days, but for others, a lot of cloud to talk about for today and heavy rain in places because we've got this wriggling weather front that will continue to bring bouts of wet weather to northern parts of the country. To the south of that, rising temperatures and a humid feel. Some sunshine for the far southeast of England, but otherwise a lot of cloud across the UK. Some spots of rain for central and southwestern parts, but it's northern England, North Wales, Northern Ireland and much of Scotland where we'll see the heaviest and most persistent rain, some rumbles of thunder as well. So a wet day in places, but a muggy day for all of us with temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s towards the south and southeast. That could spark one or two thunderstorms in the far southeast by the end of the day. But for Scotland, well, here it's just cloudy, it's damp for many, the rain turning more showery rather than more persistent. Potential for one or two thundery showers across Northern Ireland through the day and the evening. Northern England, much of Wales, a similar theme. A lot of low cloud, it has to be said, covering the hills and affecting the coasts of the north and west of the UK. So quite dreary, quite gloomy in places, and that continues overnight. The north and west seeing a lot of cloud hugging the hills, causing some sea mist, and then more persistent rain returns to Ireland, Northern Ireland, much of Scotland. Meanwhile, England and Wales mostly dry, rather cloudy, and a warm feel overnight and uncomfortable night for sleeping. Some reasonable sunshine in the east and southeast during the morning, increasingly so, and that will allow temperatures to quickly rise through the morning. A stark contrast to the northwest of the UK, where we'll see further cloud, further rain, and again some rumbles of thunder. Feeling muggy everywhere, but the highest temperatures will be in the east of England, 31 Celsius possible.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab a chance to live the summer of your dreams.
With a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in tax-free cash to be won.
Someone really has to win it, and it could be you.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Thursday, the 18th of June. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood. Well, the teacher Jamie Varley has been sentenced now at Preston Crown Court for a whole life order for the murder and sexual abuse of his adopted baby, Preston Davey.
Varley's partner, John McGowan Vazicurley, has been sentenced to 25 years in prison for allowing the death of a child, sexual assault and cruelty. We'll bring you more on this harrowing story later on.
Elsewhere, it's been described as the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. Well, that's the verdict, at least from one Republican senator, as President Donald Trump of the United States faces backlash for signing an initial deal with Iran.
But in a post on Truth Social, in Donald Trump fashion, he's blasted them and anyone who agrees with them as fools.
In better news, England fans are jubilant this afternoon after the Three Lions kick off their World Cup campaign with a 4-2 crushing win over Croatia. Well, Captain Harry Kane heaped praise on the England manager.
He just told us to let the shackles off, calm down, what are we scared of? Let's just go.
Well, GBNews presenter Ben Leo, he was in Dallas for us, soaking up the atmosphere.
Elsewhere in a GB News exclusive, a grooming gang victim is warned her abusers might be released from prison early.
Yes, Tommy Robinson debates Islam at the Oxford Union, but protesters try to block people from even attending.
And it's Ladies' Day at Ascot, one of the highlights of the racing calendar.
Yes, Gold Cup Day, Ladies' Day, the best of British fashion, the best of British horse racing as well. And the King and Queen, is it going to be third time lucky? They have a horse running a little bit later on. Haven't had the best of luck for the first few days, but let's see. Royal procession at 2 p.m.
The more that you read about that horrific abuse of baby Preston.
I mean, it's just awful. I mean, a lot of you getting in touch at home about the need for accountability, you know, talking about baby P, which was in Haringey in Tottenham years ago, and how we all spoke about how lessons will be learnt.
Yeah.
This must not be allowed to happen again. And then it does happen again, and we say the same thing.
With Sarah Sharif was a similar case. I mean, this seems to happen again and again, where you'd think that the NHS, you'd think that social services, seeing these children, and in some cases these babies, with just such clear signs of abuse. Babies don't tend to break their arms. They don't tend to have bruises across their body, or in the case of baby Preston, with his previous foster family, no bruises. With his new foster parents, suddenly just the most incredible and unbelievable bruising, which the family tried to explain away as, oh, he bruises easily. Well, he didn't under the previous family. How did no one see that?
Yeah, I mean, Thomas has got in touch. He says, unless and until so-called professionals share responsibility and suffer the consequences, prison, he says even, then cases like Preston will continue. This poor child was abused by the two men and by those professionals who ignored the horrific treatment in front of their faces. I mean, some people will say, you know, it's a very difficult job, social care. These two individuals were incredibly manipulative and, of course, you know, wanted to hide the abuse that they were inflicting on this child. But surely, there must have been a gut instinct there. There must have been, you know,
You'd think on the third or fourth interaction with the hospital that they might have rung some alarm bells.
Yeah, you would have thought. Anyway, we're going to hear from outside the court. Our reporter is there and has been in that courtroom while this sentence was handed down, so we'll get the inside details very, very soon. But in the meantime, let's get the headlines.
Good afternoon, it's 1:04. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. We start with some breaking news and a warning that this story contains distressing details. A high school teacher has been jailed for life with no option for parole for the murder and sexual abuse of his adopted 13-month-old baby, Preston Davey. 37-year-old Jamie Varley adopted Preston Davey at 9 months old with his partner John McGowan Bazzakelly. He has been jailed for 25 years for allowing the death of a child and sexual assault. Following an 8-week trial, both men were convicted by a jury at Preston Crown Court on Monday. Varley and McCowan Bazzakelly were approved for adoption in January 2023, and Preston began living at their home in Blackpool in April 2023. In the 4 months he was in their care, Preston was routinely ill-treated, had indecent images and videos taken of him, and was sexually abused and physically assaulted, suffering 40 traumatic injuries. Commenting on the case, a government spokesman said, "This is a sickening case of evil abusers exploiting a vulnerable child. An independent review has been commissioned by the local authorities, and the Independent National Child Safeguarding Practice Review Panel will work with them to get to the bottom of this horrifying case." In other news, US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says America will reimpose a blockade on Iran if the country doesn't comply with the initial terms of the peace deal. His comments come as President Donald Trump and Iran's president have signed an agreement aimed at ending the war between the US and Iran. The framework includes reopening the Strait of Hormuz, a reconstruction plan, and the US moving to terminate sanctions. But the biggest issue, Iran's nuclear program, has not yet been fully resolved, with both sides now entering a 60-day negotiation period. Donald Trump says the deal could prevent an economic catastrophe, but warned America could return to military action if no final agreement is reached. US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth spoke from NATO in Brussels.
We'll review what capabilities we need. You know, when the blockade opens fully, we'll step back and allow commerce to flow. But if Iran doesn't comply, then we're more than able to reimpose an ironclad blockade. We've had basing in that region for a long time. A lot of that will stay just as it is, and we'll look at how many troops we need in the area and calibrate accordingly.
Well, Britain's new Defence Secretary has also been at that NATO meeting today. Dan Jarvis says the alliance is meeting at a moment of challenge as NATO pushes members to set out clear plans to raise defence and security spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. It says 16 people have been injured in Ukrainian drone attacks in Moscow, which forced the closure of the city's airport. The Church of England has apologised for the pain, trauma and stigma caused to those affected by historical forced adoption. Archbishop of Canterbury, Dame Sarah Mullally, said the impact on families had been lifelong for many and noted survivors having spoken of the indignity they faced. Campaigners said there'd been a lack of consultation on the apology, with one group branding the statement an insult to survivors. Others have welcomed the long-awaited apology as a first step on a long road to redemption for the Church of England. Resident doctors in England will vote on whether to accept a new government deal on pay and jobs after a planned 4-day strike was called off at the last minute. The package includes an average 6.6% pay rise, standard contract terms for locally employed doctors, and a 4,500 extra specialty training places over 3 years. If doctors accept the deal, the current strike mandate will end, but if they reject it, the union says industrial action will continue and may intensify. Polling stations are open in Makerfield after a by-election was triggered by the resignation of MP Josh Simons. 2 Scottish by-elections are also taking place in Arbroath and Broughty Ferry and Aberdeen South. Around 200 lives in England have been saved so far thanks to a vaccine against cervical cancer, a new study suggests. A report funded by Cancer Research UK and led by Queen Mary University of London shows the HPV vaccine is working to help wipe out cervical cancer across the country. Between 2020 and 2024, there were no deaths from cervical cancer in women aged 20 to 24 in England for the first time. The jab was introduced for girls in 2008 and 2019 for boys. And England fans have been celebrating across the country after the Three Lions launched their World Cup campaign with a 4-2 win over Croatia. Supporters packed pubs, fan zones and homes for the opening match. Harry Kane scored twice in a chaotic first half, with Croatia twice pulling level before the break. But Jude Bellingham restored England's lead just 2 minutes after the restart before Marcus Rashford wrapped it up later on. Sir Keir Starmer called it a fantastic result and a performance to be proud of. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now a look at the markets.
Going through the ceiling, finding the floor. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.32 and €1.15. The price of gold is £3,223 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,407 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 10 minutes past 1 and we're going to take you straight back to that breaking news. And just a warning, this contains content that viewers and listeners will find distressing.
Yes, Jamie Varley, a former teacher, has been sentenced today to life in prison with no parole after the murder of his 13-month-old adopted son, Preston Davey, whom he subjected to sustained abuse.
And John McGowan Fadder-Curley has been jailed for 25 years for allowing the death and sexual abuse of a child.
While passing sentence, Mr Justice Turner said 13-month-old Preston Davey had faced unremitting abuse and neglect before being killed by Jamie Varley during a sex attack.
Well, turning to Varley, he said, "It was you who did this. You murdered him. A whole life order is a sentence of last resort for cases of the most extreme gravity. This is a case of the most extreme gravity. You must stay in prison for the rest of your life. You will never be eligible for parole."
Well, the Minister for Children, Families and Wellbeing, Josh McAllister, had this to say.
It's a really shocking case. People will look at it and feel sick. That's how I felt. And the people that committed these appalling crimes are evil. There's no other way to put it. The safeguarding review that's now being done, the independent review, will establish more of the facts. But I have already asked some independent experts to go and look at Oldham, the Hospital Trust and the Adoption Agency to see whether things that we already know have been acted upon. And that sits within a wider context where the government has taken major action already in the last 2 years to strengthen and reset the child protection system.
Well, joining us now is the crime journalist David Shipley. David, we were told after the horrific case of baby P in Haringey in Tottenham that lessons would be learnt to try and make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. We've heard with this horrific case of this little 13-month-old boy that there were up to 8 missed opportunities for intervention that could have potentially saved his life and rescued him from this horrific abuse. Are we able to learn lessons?
Well, I think we have to. Preston was a healthy, thriving baby when he left his foster parents and went to the hands of these 2 men who ultimately tortured him to death. And as you rightly said, there were many opportunities where there were clear warning signs in terms of Preston's physical health, the visit to hospital, and for some reason no one wanted to intervene. And I know the government's talking about an investigation, a review, but I think we actually do need a full inquiry for this. We need to understand what is behind this decision-making. Why were they not willing to recognise what was in front of their eyes, which was that this boy was clearly being abused?
There have been concerns raised that political correctness played a part in questions not being asked, in the suitability of these 2 fathers not being questioned.
Yeah, so there are. If you look into the policy documents which people like Adoption England provide, which are then accepted by these regional adoption agencies, they're very keen on increasing the number of LGBT parents who adopt, and that's despite the fact that, according to those stats as well, they say that about a fifth of all parents who adopt are LGBT, and so versus maybe 2.5% to 3.5% of the whole population. So they're already hugely overrepresented, but there's a policy goal to keep increasing those numbers. And that may mean that, if you're looking at a relatively small part of the population and really keen to find more parents in that category, you're going to be less selective. There's also material in the policy documents which articulates this idea that you say non-monogamous relationships aren't a concern when they're found within LGBT couples, and they specifically talk about how adoption staff should be trained to recognise that non-monogamous relationships are acceptable and shouldn't be considered as a negative in terms of adoption. And what that can mean in practice is you're in a situation where you have lots of unrelated men potentially coming into proximate contact with young children, and we know there's robust data about this, that unrelated men pose a vastly disproportionately greater risk to children and babies. And that's whether they're straight men or gay men, it doesn't really matter. Like, unrelated men are a risk to small children.
That's quite incredible, David, what you say there, that it's actually a policy goal to have more gay couples adopting children. It's one thing to say adoption agencies shouldn't discriminate against gay couples, but to actually have a policy goal to increase the proportion, it's very odd.
It is. I was looking at some of these documents last night, and there's sort of two key areas they focus on. They focus on increasing the number of black parents, black couples adopting. And that actually makes sense because there aren't enough of those for the number of black children who need to be adopted. And actually they try to ethnicity match where possible. But as I said, within LGBT, the LGBT groups are massively overrepresented. They're already adopting at 10 times the rate of their presence in the population. So to continue to try to drive that number up must, by definition, mean you are sort of fishing in a shallower and shallower pool.
There will be lots of questions asked about the start of this process, about how this baby ended up in the hands of these monsters. But there'll also, of course, be questions now to what could have been done earlier to get him out of there, to extract this baby from this torture that he was living through for months. And as Emily has been saying at the start of this conversation, 8 separate opportunities, multiple hospital visits, one phone call to 999 that hang up after only a few seconds with a voice in the background shouting, "Put it down." Just the most unusual and, frankly, with the benefit of aftersight, obvious behaviour.
Yeah, and this, without going into the details which are particularly horrifying, it seems that repeatedly Preston sustained injuries or stopped breathing as a result of the sexual assaults which he was suffering. And that these were never picked up on. There were no warning signs when he was taken to hospital. He wasn't examined properly. It's just horrifying because the details of the post-mortem indicate that even on the day he died, the reason he died was a result of assaults. And yeah, I think there are numerous people who are to blame here. And you were talking before about someone who messaged in saying that these sorts of things won't stop until there are personal consequences for doctors and social workers. And I agree. I think we have to start recognising, people in public life who hold positions of responsibility must be personally accountable when they get this wrong. And there should be prosecutions for misconduct in public office, and there should be jail sentences.
Yeah, I think you're right. The whole life order that's been handed down to the man who actually murdered the child, that's the best the justice system can do. There will be people who would like to see the death penalty brought back for a paedophile killer like this. But this is the best the justice system can do apart from that, isn't it?
Yeah, the judge was actually very robust today, and I think he sentenced as severely as he could, and absolutely, in line with the severity and awfulness of these crimes. You know, he gave Varley a whole life term correctly, and he gave McGowan Fazakerley consecutive sentences, which is actually very unusual. Mostly sentences are all served at once, but actually he said you're going to serve your first sentence and then your 7 years for this other offence, with the result that sentence in total is 25 years. So I think the judge has done the best he can in the framework which exists. I mean, frankly, my view is that a civilised country would hang both these men within a week or two of this verdict, and that would be appropriate. I think a lot of people sit there hoping that they'll suffer prison justice and be killed in prison. That is likely. I understand that Varley has been held in Wakefield, which is, of course, the jail where Ian Watkins, the former Lost Prophets singer, was killed last year. And there have historically been a lot of child killers, baby killers, child abusers in that jail. And it's also become increasingly dangerous because there's quite a lot of London and postcode gang members in that jail now as well. So there's a very good chance that both of them will not, either die of natural causes or be released at the end of their sentence. I think, but that's no way to run a justice system. We can't.
And also, David, it's expensive because very often, and we've seen this in the case of I forget his name, the school caretaker who killed those two little girls Ian Huntley. That he had 1 or 2 or 3 attempts on his life and ended up in a coma in hospital. I mean, that is incredibly expensive. It's not an efficient way to dispatch someone, having a prison beating. But David, do stay on the line with us. We're going to have a look at some of the statements around this case and come back to you, because a government spokesman has said this.
This is a sickening case of evil abusers exploiting a vulnerable child. The public rightly demand answers about what went wrong, and we can assure them we will make sure anyone responsible for negligence faces consequences.
It continues, this is exactly why this government has brought in the most far-reaching child protection reforms in a generation, including with a new law, the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Act, which requires social workers, health professionals and the police to work together better to protect vulnerable children at risk of abuse. We're also now introducing the new Child Protection Authority in England to oversee the national picture.
Yes, an independent review has been commissioned by the local authorities, and the Independent National Child Safeguarding Practice Review Panel will work with them to get to the bottom of this horrifying case. The reviewer will publish their findings as soon as possible.
And now, just a warning, we're going to read some victim impact statements, and these do pull on the heartstrings. Preston Davies' mother said this.
Every single day, I live with the unimaginable pains of knowing what he went through. They haunt me when I sleep. You have not only taken Preston's life, you have devastated mine and his sister's.
She continues, everyday moments that should be happy are now filled with pain. They bring back the reality of what you did to him. I carry grief, guilt and heartbreak every single day.
She goes on, you were failed by the very people who were supposed to protect you. All I can ask now is the seriousness of what was done to my son can be recognised.
And Preston Davies' foster parent, Sandra Cooper, has also delivered her impact statement from the courtroom.
His death has had a huge impact on our lives. My husband Paul and I have continued to foster children to protect them. We now feel anxious and mistrustful of all the children we have had in our care.
I often dream about Preston and feel that he is alive. I then wake up and realise he has died and go through all that trauma again.
He was wonderful, happy and lit up any room. He will always remain in our thoughts.
Well, those are some of the statements from the biological mother, the foster parents before the adoption, and of course the government as well. Let's return to David Shipley now, because David, the government is saying that new organisations have been set up, a new law has been passed, an overseeing agency, at least for England, that could start to have the joined-up thinking that was clearly so desperately missing in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll have to wait and see what the detail is, but as I was saying previously about the policies that exist already for something like Adoption England, there's no good in having these national entities set up if they are infested with ideological policy, which actually means they don't function properly.
Well, yes, I mean, David, is adding bureaucracy to this the answer, or is having better people working in these organisations, better training, as you say, less ideological training, perhaps? Isn't that more important? Because any of these people could have rung the alarm
Yeah, I think often what bureaucracies do is they think the solution to a failure is to write more policy and tell people how they must follow a process. And actually, processes don't keep people safe. Not in prisons, not in schools, not in adoption of children. What keeps vulnerable people safe is good staff who have strong moral principles, who feel empowered and brave enough to speak out when there's a problem, and who are supported by their manager. It's a cultural issue. It's not about writing another policy. It's about having an approach which is actually focused on the needs of the child. And again, if you read through all these policy documents, it's striking to me how much energy they spend on talking about the journey of adoptive parents, what that's like for them, the challenges they might face, and how little they write about the children who are being adopted. And fundamentally, it's not that many children who need to be adopted every year. It's 3,000 or 4,000. There is a shortfall of adoptive parents, but surely we can find 3,000 or 4,000 couples in stable, safe relationships and ideally marriages, a year who would take a child or a baby on. I think the writing more policy is not the solution now.
Yeah, I mean, David, it is worth pointing out that the biological mother who gave that statement was a very difficult start to life for Preston. She herself was convicted for murdering a pensioner, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Just awful state of affairs.
Yeah, and that was actually a particularly horrible killing as well in lots of ways. But I think the question here is, could the grandmother have taken Preston on? At the time when he was adopted, she was being treated for cancer, but might it have made a lot more sense to keep him with the foster parents for a few months and then move him to the grandmother?
Do we know what happened there, David? Do we know how the sort of timeline of that? Did the grandmother want to look after Preston even though she was undergoing treatment for breast cancer, or was there a sort of, or did she say, I'll look after him after? What sort of happened? Do we know?
What I understand is that she asked for a pause of a few months while she was being treated. And again, this might come back to policy and bureaucracy. So if you look in the policy documents, one of the key things they're interested in is reducing the time it takes to get children adopted. And this is again why we need a full inquiry for this. Just as with Baldo Calacane and the Nottingham killings, we need a full statutory inquiry that's actually going to find out why this happened, because there's clearly something's gone horribly wrong here. However frail Preston's grandmother was, however hard she might have found parenting a baby, I do not think, he would still be alive. She might have found it tough, but she could have been supported. It clearly would have been infinitely better than where he was sent. So we need to understand why that decision was made and who was personally responsible for that.
David, back to the sentencing. Clearly a whole life order is the harshest punishment anyone can be afforded in this country under the law as it stands. Only around 70 people in this country are currently serving one, including people like Wayne Couzens, the most horrific murderers. A lot of people watching and listening will be thinking, good, Jamie Varley has been given a whole life order. But his husband, John McGovern Fazakerley, or Fazakerley, or whatever it is, he seems to have subjected this child to the same abuse, but was fortunate that the eventual abuse that killed the child was not of his making. People will be looking at his comparatively lighter sentence and thinking this is just luck on his part, just as evil a monster as his husband, who seemed to carry out the act that eventually did for the child. But John seems to have got away without a whole life order simply because it wasn't him who made the final blow that killed baby Preston.
Yes, and I think it's interesting here that the CPS didn't pursue joint enterprise as a charge, which they often do in other situations. Often if there's a killing by a gang in London, the CPS will prosecute everyone at the scene or everyone involved under joint enterprise law, so everyone gets a murder conviction. I would be interested to understand why they didn't do that here, and I think it would be good to get the CPS to account for that, because actually they could have. And I think the argument is that you've just made is one I agree with, that both of them are were torturing and abusing this baby, and it could just as easily have been a different day on which he died, in which McGowan Fazakerley was one charged with murder. So, and both were clearly complicit in covering up the abuse.
And how long were they actually? How long did they have Preston Davey under their roof?
Only 4 months.
Only 4 months.
Yeah,
for all of this abuse.
Yeah, and if you think about this baby, to spend 4 months of his desperately short life being tortured and terrified, and they took videos of him. Some of them have been published by different news organisations online. They are really difficult. Not the ones of abuse, but it's some of just his reactions, his fear. You can see how bleak and horrible his life was made by these men.
Well, thank you very much indeed for talking us through this particularly horrific case. David Shipley, a crime journalist. I mean, who could hurt a baby? I mean, look at him. Yeah. Little face.
He's
poor boy.
Looks like the happiest, smiliest child. And this is what the victim impact statements are saying as well, just full of life, full of joy, and murdered ruthlessly for the depraved pleasure of two monsters.
Yeah. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up.
Well, we're going live to Preston Crown Court for a police statement on this sentencing. As soon as that happens, we'll be taking you straight there live. All of that and much more to come after your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 1:30. We start with that breaking news and a warning that story does contain distressing details. A high school teacher has been jailed for life with no option for parole for the murder and sexual abuse of his adopted 13-month-old baby, Preston Davey. 37-year-old Jamie Varley adopted Preston Davey at 9 months old with his partner, John McGowan Fazakerley. He has been jailed for 25 years for allowing the death of a child and sexual assault. In other news, US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says America will reimpose a blockade on Iran if the country doesn't comply with the initial terms of a peace deal. His comments come as President Donald Trump and Iran's president have signed an agreement aimed at ending the war between the US and Iran. Britain's new Defence Secretary has attended NATO talks in Brussels. Dan Jarvis says the alliance is meeting at a moment of challenge as NATO pushes members to set out clear plans to raise defence and security spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. The Church of England has apologised for the pain, trauma and stigma caused to those affected by historical forced adoption. Archbishop of Canterbury, Dame Sarah Mullally, said the impact on families had been lifelong for many and noted survivors having spoken of the indignity they faced. And polling stations are open in Makerfield after a by-election was triggered by the resignation of MP Josh Simons. 2 Scottish by-elections are also taking place in Arbroath and Broughty Ferry and Aberdeen South. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More news at 2 o'clock.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Some parts of the UK are going to turn much hotter over the next few days, but for others, a lot of cloud to talk about for today and heavy rain in places because we've got this wriggling weather front that will continue to bring bouts of wet weather to northern parts of the country. To the south of that, rising temperatures and a humid feel. Some sunshine for the far southeast of England, but otherwise a lot of cloud across the UK. Some spots of rain for central and southwestern parts, but it's northern England, North Wales, Northern Ireland, and much of Scotland where we'll see the heaviest and most persistent rain, some rumbles of thunder as well. So a wet day in places, but a muggy day for all of us with temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s towards the south and southeast. That could spark 1 or 2 thunderstorms in the far southeast by the end of the day. But for Scotland, well, here it's just cloudy, it's damp for many, the rain turning more showery rather than more persistent. Potential for 1 or 2 thundery showers across Northern Ireland through the day and the evening. Northern England, much of Wales, a similar theme. A lot of low cloud, it has to be said, covering the hills and affecting the coasts of the north and west of the UK. So quite dreary, quite gloomy in places, and that continues overnight. The north and west seeing a lot of cloud hugging the hills causing some sea mist, and then more persistent rain returns to Ireland, Northern Ireland, much of Scotland. Meanwhile, England and Wales, mostly dry, rather cloudy, and a warm feel overnight, and uncomfortable night for sleeping. Some reasonable sunshine in the east and southeast during the morning, increasingly so, and that will allow temperatures to quickly rise through the morning. A stark contrast to the northwest of the UK, where we'll see further cloud, further rain, and again some rumbles of thunder. Feeling muggy everywhere, but the highest temperatures will be in the east of England, 31 Celsius possible.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the A1M northbound between junctions 42 and 43 near Leeds, a collision has closed one lane. The A46 southbound in Leicester faces a quarter-hour...
Good afternoon, Britain. We're going to take you straight to Preston Crown Court, where a statement is being made.
Good afternoon. My name is Andy Fellows. I'm a Detective Chief Inspector in Lancashire's Force Major Investigation Team, and I just wanted to say a few words on behalf of the investigation team, and then I'll read a statement on behalf of Preston's biological mother, Sarah Davey, and Sandra Cooper, a foster carer who looked after Preston for the first 9 months of his life. Jamie Varley is an evil and monstrous individual who sexually, physically and mentally abused a vulnerable baby for his own sadistic pleasure. It was this abuse that ultimately led to little baby Preston's death. I struggle to imagine the horror that Preston endured in his short life. McGowan Fazakerley did nothing to help Preston and instead committed his own sexual assault against him. While no sentence will ever be enough for what these truly wicked men did to an innocent child, I welcome those handed down to them today by the judge. I hope it gives some comfort to those who love Preston that both Varley and McGowan Fazakerley will be behind bars for a significant period of time. This has been one of the most challenging investigations our Force Major Investigation Team has ever undertaken, and the most extreme example of sordid and wicked behaviour by two completely remorseless human beings. This is a case that truly shocked the nation. I would like to thank the investigation team for their professionalism and determination in getting justice for Preston. I would also like to thank the Crown Prosecution Service and our counsel Peter Wright, KC and Simon Driver. I know today's headlines will understandably be about Varley and McGowan Fazakerley and their truly abhorrent crimes. However, I don't want the victim in this case, baby Preston Davey, to be lost in the headlines. He was a happy and thriving boy who would have been celebrating his 4th birthday 2 days ago if it wasn't for the actions of Varley and McGowan Fazakerley. I'd like to say a few words on behalf of Sarah Davey. Preston Paul Arlo Davey was perfect from the moment he was born. The second he was placed in my arms, I felt completely in love with him. He was my baby, my son, and from that day on, I never wanted to let him go. For the first 7 months of his life, I was lucky enough to spend precious time with him. He had the most beautiful smile, one that could light up any room, and the bond we shared was something everybody could see. Those memories should have brought me comfort, but instead they are now mixed with pain because I know what they put him through in his final months. He was defenceless. He relied entirely on them, the adults responsible for him, to love him, care for him and keep him safe. Instead, they caused him suffering. They took away his chance to grow up, to go to school, to make friends, to live a full life. They took everything from him. There are no words that can truly describe the moment Sarah was told her son had died. The world ended, part of her died with him. But what makes it even more unbearable is knowing that his death was not an accident. It was something cruel, something that he did not deserve, and something that should never have been allowed to happen. And I'll read a few words on behalf of Sandra Cooper. Preston's death has had a huge impact upon our lives. Preston was going to be the last child we fostered. However, we could not retire after Preston had died. We felt we had a duty to other children and could not sit back and enjoy ourselves knowing that other children were being abused, mistreated and could die. My husband Paul and I continued to foster children to protect them. We are doing this for Preston in his memory. Preston's death has changed my perspective on life. Things I once felt were important, I now feel are not. I realise that life is too short. Paul and I will often watch videos we took of Preston when he was happy with us, laughing and giggling, playing with his toys and smiling. Preston's face would light up when we looked at him. He was joyful, so content and happy, with sparkly, smiling eyes. This is how we want to remember him. Thank you very much. We're not taking any questions.
Well, we can hear there the statement from the police, reading out the thoughts of the mother, the thoughts of the foster parents who thought that they would give up fostering, that baby Preston would be their last foster child, and now are continuing to foster in his memory to save more children from horrific abuse and even death.
It's just so terribly sad. It's just so terribly sad to hear those statements about how he was such a lovely boy and such a smiley boy.
Light up any room.
How could anyone do that? A whole life order for the teacher and 25 years for his partner, his accomplice, in destroying this young baby's life. It's true, this is a case that has shocked the nation. You can say that again. That's what the senior investigator had to say there. And one of the most extreme, sordid cases they've ever had to investigate. And the two men, remorseless.
Yeah, that is...
Apparently, remorseless.
I mean, what the police said there, an extreme example of sordid and wicked behaviour from two completely remorseless individuals. Just otherworldly.
Yeah, it is just otherworldly. Now, our reporter Jack Carson has been there, and we're going to speak to him in a few moments. He was in the court for this sentencing. The judge has done what he can.
Yeah, within the confines of the law.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will be thinking today, does the law go far enough? I mean, the judge explicitly chose to do subsequent sentencing rather than concurrent sentencing, meaning that these crimes are added one on top of each other rather than the sentences served together. That enabled that whole life order, only 70 of which exist in the country for Jamie Varley. So the harshest punishment he could possibly get. But there will still be many people in this country thinking, well, should the law not allow for the ultimate punishment in cases like this?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be hugging their relatives and children a little tighter today. Let's cross to Jack Carson, our national reporter, who has been at the court for us. Jack, just the details of this story and hearing those victim impact statements, it's very, very emotional.
It's very, very emotional. It was a extremely emotional courtroom. Those victim impact statements from Sandra Cooper and Paul Cooper, who were the adoptive foster parents, I should say, of baby Preston for the first few months of his life. They gave their personal impact statements in court, in person. They wanted to do that for Preston, as they said in those statements, and it took a while for them to be able to get through them because of how emotional it is, how as you heard from the statements there from from Lancashire police reading on their behalf how the trauma of these events continuously comes back to them. They wake up multiple times in the middle of the night thinking of Preston. Could they have done anything to change the outcome that has happened here? It is a horrific case. There are so many details about this which we are simply unable to report to you. Such it was the scale of the physical and traumatic abuse that Preston was subjected to. The Honourable Mr Justice Turner saying in his sentencing remarks that Preston was subjected by Jamie Varley to obvious cruelty. Of course, Preston having to be taken to hospital on multiple occasions, nurses, doctors noticing bruises, marks, but still Preston was allowed to return home to their care. And on some of the seizures that Preston was having, the judge sentencing today said, "I am sure that the seizure was caused by your abuse." Again, his lips were blue on occasions. He said he was plainly in need of urgent medical attention. "I am sure your reason for not getting it was the fear of the discovery of what you were doing to Preston." And of course, it is so rare to be handed down a whole life order without any minimum term, without any option for parole, but that is exactly what Mr Justice Turner delivered today, saying, "I accept that you did not intend to actually kill Preston, even though it was inevitable your actions would cause extreme injury. These whole life orders are saved for the utmost extreme gravity," saying that you will stay in prison for the rest of your life. You will never be eligible for parole. And the seriousness that the judge has taken this case is reflected in the fact that John McGowan Fraser Curley has been sentenced to a 25-year total sentence, with some of those sentences coming consecutively. So much now when there are multiple charges on an indictment and those defendants are found guilty, the sentences are set to run concurrently, meaning it is only the most extreme charge on that indictment that serves the time for the custodial sentence. But today there was consecutive sentences issued, leading it to be a 25-year total sentence. So that is, again, another example of just how extreme some of the abuse that Preston had to go through, because the seriousness of the sentences is as we've seen today, is so rare. Jamie Varley begged medics to save his life in footage in the hospital, essentially creating a web of lies, as he did over months and months and months. Today, Jamie Varley begins a life term in prison.
Jack Carson, thanks indeed for being there for us. For frankly, it's not an easy job.
No. It's
not an easy job to hear that. I mean, for us here, just sort of insulated from it all, I can only imagine to begin to imagine the atmosphere inside that courtroom.
Yeah, to be in the court must be something else. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Do stick with us, but for now, let's get a latest look on the European weather.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The heat across some parts of Western Europe will continue to build and spread further north and eastwards through the next few days. Not everywhere seeing the exceptionally high temperatures, but across some parts of Spain into France, temperatures will be around 10 degrees above average for the time of year. And whilst there will be a lot of sunshine around, with that heat and humidity, do watch out for a few thundery showers that are likely to kick off. More sunny and hot weather to come into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As we know, in a democracy, you're free to choose how you want to celebrate. And this is right on brand for Donald Trump. He loves to be a big spectacle with any celebration he does. He wants it to be big. He wants it to grab headlines. And clearly right now he wants to show strength. So it's a tactical decision as well. As we know, there's a very unpopular war going on with Iran, and he's hoping to announce a deal tonight, which would be the greatest birthday gift he could get, because we do need a deal. But it's only Donald Trump who would choose to do this. A lot of the people who follow UFC voted for him, and he's being tactical ahead of midterm elections, trying to show strength.
GB News, the People's Channel. Nana Akua, weekends from 3 p.m.
5 years ago from today, I got to meet my absolute hero, Nigel Farage, and rub shoulders with Dan Wootton and Andrew Neil, the latter being particularly grumpy. He was less than impressed as well when the sound failed during his first broadcast. The lighting was dreadful. I looked mouldy, and at one point I was practically invisible during a breakfast show because of a black backdrop behind me. I was little more than eyes and teeth. We faced obstacle after obstacle, including Stop Funding Hate, an activist group that set about trying to destroy us before we'd even broadcast a single second. Advertisers were frightened off, and hostility towards the channel was actively encouraged, which was deeply ironic. But still, we persisted. If anything, it made us more creative and more resilient.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Ian McKellen is helping relaunch the Yard Theatre up in Hackney, which reopens this summer, with a new purpose-built 200-capacity auditorium. Tiny, but he'll be doing a brand new version of King Lear. Up in Scotland, Alan Cumming has taken over the Pitlochry Festival. And I just want people to know that all these small theatres, number one, it's not such a big risk. Ticket prices are £30, £35, £40, top price. And you can find less than that. So you can take a risk, but you'll go along and you'll experience something. You'll be part of something. And I am a huge fan of what we get in the West End. It's world class, but it is a lot of money. And it's sometimes just a little bit predictable or complacent or safe, I would say. Not always, but sometimes.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Right, I think it's time for a bit of lighter news this afternoon. So we're heading to the races because it's day 3 of Royal Ascot, and what does that mean? It's Ladies' Day.
So we've sent Cameron Walker there to find out all about it. Cameron, what's going on?
Good afternoon, Tom and Emily. Yeah, you may be able to see the parade ring where I am is absolutely packed right now, and that is because we're just minutes away from the royal procession. We've had the carriage list already. The King and Queen will be leading the procession. We've got the Prince and Princess, Princess Royal even, and Vice Admiral Tim Lawrence, as well as the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. But as you mentioned, Emily, it is Ladies' Day or Gold Cup Day. So part of today is all about the best of British fashion, and we had a chance to speak to some guests earlier on today about what it means for them to be at Ascot, specifically on Ladies' Day, and this is what they told us. What is it about Ladies' Day or Gold Cup Day at Royal Ascot that you love?
Well, this is our 4th year now coming, and we just love dressing up and seeing all the wonderful ladies making such a good effort. Everybody looks beautiful.
It's just watching everybody looking absolutely tip-top. I love looking at women who just look incredible. Everybody looks so classy. It's just first time for me. These ladies have been year after year, so it's just super exciting.
First time at Ascot, so I thought red, white and blue got to be. My dress is Fenny from Fatago. I don't know, my shoes are Cavano, I think. And my hat was made by a lady called Hats and Brolly. The outfit.
What's the inspiration behind the look?
Just Ascot, British, pure British. I got to go for it the first time you're here.
And what is it about Ascot and that makes it kind of the best of British fashion, do you think?
Oh, it's amazing. Everyone just goes full out. We're from York. My husband's there. Look, I've made him dress with a Union Jack tie as well. But we're from York, and so people go for it. But here was a whole new level, so I thought we need to do it.
Well, the Gold Cup race at 4:15, that has a top prize money of £650,000. So you can imagine how competitive that's going to get. As for how competitive the King and Queen are going to be getting, well, the first 2 days, they haven't had much luck with their own horses. Reaching High was last, and their second horse as well didn't do very well either yesterday. However, Golden Orbit is the race which they are going to be looking for. The third race, the Ribblesdale Stakes, because they own that horse. Are the King and Queen going to be third time lucky? Are we going to get scenes like we did in 2023 when their horse Desert Hero won in the King George V Stakes and Royal Protocol went out the window and they looked pretty ecstatic? Well, let's wait and see. Only hours to go, Emily and Tom.
Very exciting indeed. And the hats get bigger and more elaborate every year, don't they, Tom?
They started off centuries ago just absolutely minuscule, and now they're vast and enormous. Cameron Walker, thanks indeed for being there for us. We'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Yes, well, what a lovely day out.
And Golden Orbit, marvellous name for a horse. Reminds us of, well, actually, it sadly reminds us that Britain is the only country in the world to ever have achieved orbital capacity with our own rocket, only to give it up.
Yes, that's what it made me think of too, actually, Tom. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength here.
Exactly, precisely.
Always on the same wavelength, Custy.
Now, lots more still to come on Good Afternoon Britain. Don't move a muscle, but here's your weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A muggy feel out there today, and in fact that will continue over the next few days. A lot of low cloud and mist in the north and west. In some places, that will be bringing heavy rain. Now, at the moment, the UK sits on the boundary between an increasingly hot spell across Europe and much fresher Atlantic air, that fresher Atlantic air reaching the far northwest of the UK. But in between, we've got a lot of cloud cover, spells of rain, easing for a time overnight, but then by dawn, we've got heavier rain arriving into Northern Ireland, much of central and western Scotland. Towards the southeast, the chance of some thundery showers at first through the evening, and then it's drier with clear spells. But despite the clear spells, it's going to be a muggy night, an uncomfortable one for sleeping, temperatures staying at 16 or 17 Celsius. We start Friday with this big contrast across the country. A wet start for Scotland with heavy rain at times, especially towards the west, and a lot of low cloud bringing some hill fog and some coastal mist. Northern Ireland, a similarly damp start to the day, even if it's not particularly chilly. Much of England and Wales drier, but we do have extensive low cloud through Wales and the west of England with sea fog and some hill fog as well. A few spots of drizzle out there. Much brighter skies through the Midlands, the east and southeast of England. Extensive sunshine away from the coast and temperatures shooting up through the morning, reaching by the afternoon widely high 20s and low 30s. The hot spot likely somewhere in East Anglia at 33 Celsius. Further northwest, it's going to stay damp through much of the day, but the heavier rain easing for a time, turning more showery, and still that humid feel. Now, the rain that starts the day in the northwest edges into the north and west of England as well as Wales on Friday night. That will eventually fizzle away through Sunday, and although we'll see more wet weather in the north on Sunday, it turns drier and warmer with some exceptional heat in the southeast.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab a chance to live the summer of your dreams.
With a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in tax-free cash to be won.
Someone really has to win it, and it could be you.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, Parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Thursday, the 18th of June. I'm Tom Harwood.
I'm Emily Carver. Well, the teacher Jamie Varley has been sentenced at Preston Crown Court to a whole life order for the murder and sexual abuse of his adopted baby, Preston Davey.
Well, Varley's partner, John McGowan Fazikirli, has been sentenced to 25 years in prison for allowing the death of a child, sexual assault and cruelty.
Extreme example of sordid and wicked behaviour by two completely remorseless human beings. This is a case that truly shocked the nation.
Passing sentence, Mr. Justice Turner said that Preston Davey had faced unremitting abuse and neglect before being killed by Jamie Varley, who he sentenced to a whole life order.
Well, the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. Yes, that's the verdict from one Republican senator, as Donald Trump faces backlash for signing an initial deal with Iran.
But in a post on Truth Social, the president has blasted them and anyone else who agrees with them as fools.
In a GB News exclusive, a grooming gang victim is warned that her abusers may be released from prison early.
And Fiona Goddard is not the only victim who is concerned about this. Letters have been sent amid reports that some offenders could be released at half or just a third of their sentences.
The Church of England has told birth mothers and children affected by historical forced adoptions that it is profoundly sorry for its role in the practice. Stay tuned for all the details.
And yes, England fans across the country are jubilant this morning after the Three Lions kick off the World Cup campaign with a 4-2 win over Croatia. Yes, captain Harry Kane heaped praise on the England manager.
He just told us to let the shackles off, calm down, what are we scared of? Let's just go.
Well, GB News presenter Ben Leo soaked up the atmosphere in Dallas, Texas.
OK, we're going to return to the breaking news this afternoon and a warning that this contains content that viewers and listeners may find distressing.
Jamie Varley, a former teacher, has been sentenced to life in prison with no parole after the murder of his 13th-month-old adopted son, Preston Davey, whom he subjected to sustained abuse.
Yes, and John McGowan Fazakerley has been jailed for 25 years for allowing the death and for sexual abuse of the child.
Well, our national reporter Jack Carson has been at the court for us. Jack, the most heinous case.
The most heinous case, horrific, and there are so many details about this that we're unable to report to you, particularly involving the abuse that Preston Davey, as a 13-month-old baby, had to endure when he was taken to hospital on the day that he died. Jamie Varley begged medics to save his life, telling them it was my fault, I only left him for 2 minutes when I went and got changed. He was creating what would be unravelled to be a web of lies, coming up with an excuse that he had drowned in a bath when he had gone to get changed. In the months when Preston was being abused, Jamie Varley would message friends saying that it's almost like they think I'm abusing him, creating this narrative essentially that he was innocent in all of this, and these seizures and the broken bones and everything that Preston Davey was having to be taken to hospital for was nothing to do with the care and the treatment of his pre-adoptive parents. Jamie Varley, of course, being the one who was found guilty here a few days ago of his murder. He has today been sentenced by Mr. Justice Turner to a whole life order. That means he has no option for parole. There is no minimum term, as we see so often in murder cases. Murder cases, it is a life sentence automatically for a murder case, but the judge has the discretion to set a minimum term before there can be review as to whether that defendant can be able to go on licence. That will not happen for Jamie Varley. He will spend the rest of his days in jail. Mr. Justice Turner, sentencing him today, said Preston was subjected to obvious cruelty. He said he was sure that the seizures Preston was suffering was caused by Jamie Varley's abuse, telling him plainly in the sentencing remarks that you murdered him and that there is only one sentence for murder: life imprisonment. Of course, Preston was particularly vulnerable because he was a baby, and that is what adds to how distressing this whole case is. We heard a lot from inside courts, from the victim, personal statements from both from both Preston's mum and also Preston's foster parents. A short while ago, Lancashire police gave this statement outside the court.
Jamie Varley is an evil and monstrous individual who sexually, physically and mentally abused a vulnerable baby for his own sadistic pleasure. It was this abuse that ultimately led to little baby Preston's death. I struggle to imagine the horror that Preston endured in his short life. McGowan Fazakerley did nothing to help Preston and instead committed his own sexual assault against him. While no sentence will ever be enough for what these truly wicked men did to an innocent child, I welcome those handed down to them today by the judge. I hope it gives some comfort to those who love Preston that both Varley and McGowan Fazakerley will be behind bars for a significant period of time.
As you can hear there, very strong statement from Lancashire Police after this, and we heard as well, just in the court proceedings today, just how much of an impact this has had. The foster parents, Sandra and Paul Cooper, who said in their statements today that they were going to retire from fostering after baby Preston, have decided that they cannot continue with that retirement, that they feel like they have to keep presenting and being available to be a home for children who need care, because they feel like they can't trust their own judgment anymore, that Jamie Varley and his partner came across as being parents which would give baby Preston a wonderful life. And of course we now know that was never going to be the case once he got into their care. The Children's Minister, Josh McAllister, has been given reaction from the government to this appalling case.
It's a really shocking case. People will look at it and feel sick. That's how I felt and the people that committed these appalling crimes are evil. There's no other way to put it. The safeguarding review that's now being done, the independent review, will establish more of the facts, but I have already asked some independent experts to go and look at Oldham, the Hospital Trust and the Adoption Agency to see whether things that we already know have been acted upon, and that sits within a wider context where the government has taken major action already in the last 2 years to strengthen and reset the child protection system.
Well, Jamie Varley sat motionless in the dock as that sentence was handed down. He looked exhausted, drained of all colour, gaunt even as he sat in the dock. His partner, alternatively John McGowan, Fazer Curley, sat there in a suit just sipping water throughout, seemingly unfazed by the crimes that he committed that were being reminded to him. Both of them then sent down after Mr. Justice Turner finished his remarks. Jamie Varley never to see freedom again, as you can hear from those reaction from the government, but also Lancashire police when it comes to Jamie Varley. That is the maximum that the judge could have given him. Interestingly, in the sentence that McGowan, Fazer Curley received, of course, him being told by the judge that this was a case of the utmost depravity, that his offending gave rise to serious developmental and emotional harm to Preston. He was sentenced to 25 years with consecutive sentences. Just to say that is quite rare in this day and age for consecutive sentences to be issued. So many times now, it is the crime which warrants the biggest custodial time on an indictment then everything else basically runs concurrently to that. So it is really a proof of evidence of these crimes that the judge felt it necessary to go against what has almost been procedure within courtrooms around the country for so many years now, that he felt it was necessary to pass certain consecutive sentences. It is incredible throughout all of this, the different personas that Jamie Varley has put on, the ones that he put on when he took Preston into care, the ones that he put on when he eventually was arrested by police, almost telling them that there was no way that he killed them, that the police had got it wrong. But of course they hadn't got it wrong, as a jury found him guilty earlier this week. In the trial, which lasted nearly 8 weeks here at Preston Crown Court, the jury saw videos of Varley throwing himself to the floor, saying he didn't believe it was true that Preston had died. But of course, as we heard in the sentencing remarks, Preston's lips on the day that he had died had gone blue. He'd been able to start breathing again, but as we heard, the reason the judge believes that Jamie Varley didn't call for immediate medical assistance was because the truth of his offending would be found out. Well, for Jamie Varley, it has been found out. He has been convicted, and today he starts a whole life order in custody.
Most heinous crime that you described there. Almost unimaginable how people could behave in that way to such a defenceless little child. You mentioned a bit of how these individuals looked in court, gaunt, motionless, one of them sipping water. Do you recognise the description of Lancashire police when they say these are two completely remorseless individuals?
I think so, absolutely. I think looking at Jamie Varley, there was no sense of even during the victim personal statements, which I have to say were incredibly emotional to listen to, from Sandra Cooper, the foster mum of Preston in the first 9 months or so of his life. They received Preston went into their care 5 days after he was born. They loved him like their own son. In fact, Preston's birth father saying that he will never recover from the fact that his only son has died in this way. There was no emotion shown when everyone else in the courtroom was emotional and could see the emotion on Sandra Cooper's face as she gave that victim impact statement. There was no emotion from Jamie Varley. He just sat there looking motionless, looking gaunt, and I think realising maybe possibly today finally the seriousness of the crimes that he's been convicted of.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Jack Carson there, our national reporter at Preston Crown Court.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and we're going to move on now to an international story.
Yes, it's been called. Sorry, Tom.
Just a bit of breather after that, I think.
Breather, yes. It's been the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. That's the verdict from one Republican senator, as President Donald Trump faces quite a bit of backlash from his own party after signing this deal with Iran.
Well, the president signed the Memorandum of Understanding at the Palace of Versailles, no less, where some other perhaps unfavourable peace treaties have been signed in the past. Well, the temporary agreement will see the Strait of Hormuz reopen and the end to fighting on all fronts. But it will also end sanctions on Iran and hand over potentially hundreds of billions of dollars to the regime.
Yes, well, joining us now in the studio is Iranian journalist Mani Bashazad. Mani, thank you very much indeed for joining us. A lot of people saying this deal is absolutely no good. In fact, it hands money to the Iranian regime.
What a rotten deal we made with Iran. They get everything, we get nothing. That's what Donald Trump said in 2013 in his Twitter account about the Obama deal. That was a correct description of the Obama deal, but the sad thing is it's a correct description of Trump deal as well. I would summarize this deal in one sentence. It's carrots with no sticks. Why do I say that? The money that Trump is giving to the regime, it's literally giving the money to the regime. It's the frozen assets of the Iranian people which is giving it to the regime, is at least, by some estimates, 3 times more than Obama. The other point that we're having is, historically, 14 points plans that are signed in France do not work. And the thing I'm saying about this deal is quite vague. Like in one of the 14 points, it's saying basically, United States is not going to have bases close to Iran. Well, what does that mean? It means they're going to destroy their bases in Qatar, in UAE, in our allies, especially after this war, which Iran attacked all these allies, all these US allies in the region. I think the vagueness of this deal is because of one reason. We shouldn't call it a deal. It's a deal to make a deal in the future, in the next 60 days. Another aspect of this deal, which is quite sad, is Trump believes in this illusion of a new regime in Iran. He's constantly saying, this is a new regime, this is a new regime. Let's summarize this new regime, what they have done. Parashtu Ahmadi has been sentenced to 72 lashes. Why? She had a public concert. What was her crime? Being a woman. If you're a woman in Islamic Republic of Iran, you can't have a concert. Because basically, based on Islamic Republic's laws, women cannot sing in public. What has happened? In the last 3 days, they sentenced 2 other protesters. Is this the new regime that Trump's making a deal with? The beautiful thing that Henry Kissinger said once is the Iranian regime should decide whether they want to be a nation or a cause or a revolution. There is no sign this regime is not a cause anymore. All the evidence is showing to us they are still a revolutionary regime. See what Ghalibaf has been the chief negotiator with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. He went to Pakistan and had a meeting with J.D. Vance. What he said 2 days ago, he said the true way to avenge the martyred imam is liberation of Jerusalem, what he calls the Quds. So he sees this deal as a step towards liberating Jerusalem, and what they mean by liberating Jerusalem is destroying Israel. So I don't know how they're going to have the commitment. Because you have different fractions of power in Iran. For example, Ghalibaf and Pezeshkian are one side, the IRGC is the other side, and we haven't seen anything from IRGC, Bahidi. And as Mao Zedong said, power comes from the end of barrel of a gun. And the barrel of the gun is IRGC.
Well, Mani, you spoke about Obama's deal, which, of course, was incredibly controversial in the 2016 election. Maybe to some reason why it was certainly a stick with which Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama over that election. $100 billion dollars in unfrozen assets under the terms of the JCPOA. As you say, this deal could be $300 billion in unfrozen assets. Clearly, Donald Trump has done this deal in a rushed way because he's worried about the midterm elections in November. But could there be another way that this is viewed, that actually doing this deal in such a rushed way unleashing this money for the Islamic Republic might actually not do what he thinks it's going to do for him. Yes, markets have rebounded and they're happy there's stability now, but ultimately this could be a political albatross around his neck as the midterm elections approach.
It's going to be a political disaster because Obama reached that deal, it was better than this deal, and there was no war. He didn't start a war. The Strait of Hormuz was open. Trump in one sense is worse than Obama, and I think it's completely his mistake. He had the support of the Iranian people. He had the support of the Iranian opposition. He had the support of its allies in the region for the war. And suddenly he's turning against all of them. He's turning against the Iranian people. The war with Iran has ended, but the war of Islamic Republic with the Iranian people is still there. I think he should have accepted. He should have accepted the Liberty plan, which was opening the Strait of Hormuz, some really limited forces on the ground, which would open the Strait of Hormuz and give the control of Hark Island to Donald Trump. But he doesn't want to bring boots on the ground.
That would be American troops on the ground in the Middle East once more, something that Donald Trump has always said was a big, big mistake in Iraq and Afghanistan. He didn't want to be another president to be dragged into a forever war.
Yeah, but what's the alternative? Which one is a bigger disaster? An Islamic Republic with nuclear weapon, with $300 billion to finance Hamas, to finance Hezbollah, to have another October the 7th, but some American troops on the ground to get the Strait of Hormuz open, put more political pressure on Islamic Republic. Donald Trump was the voice of sanity on Iran for years, because he understood basically you have to deal with the nature of this regime rather than economic pressures. They don't understand the language of sanctions. They don't understand, if you have a regime which basically their main dream is martyrdom, to die for Allah, to die for their cause, you can't have normal negotiations with them. As Churchill said, you don't reason with a tiger. So I think both of them are costly. But the reason some say Donald Trump lost this war is not because the United States is weaker militarily than Iran. It's because Iran had the ability to endure higher cost. So they should have shown that we are not going to appease the thugs. This is the Islamic Republic. What's the lesson for Islamic Republic and all the enemies of the United States? We're going to close one of the world's most important straits. We're going to kill more than 40,000 of our own citizens. We're going to attack all your allies, and what we're going to get is a deal? What does that say to US allies?
A reward.
Yeah, a reward.
Well, Bas Hazad, thank you very much indeed for your time. You're an Iranian journalist. Thank you very much.
Well, now to grooming gangs, because one survivor has expressed her anger after being warned that some of her abusers could be considered for early release from prison.
Well, GBNews national reporter Charlie Peters joins us for more on this exclusive. Charlie, you wouldn't have thought that grooming gang perpetrators would be up for early release.
And yet, let's use the language of the sentencing minister. Earlier this year, in a parliamentary debate about this change to the Sentencing Act, which is changing how prisoners are released, now, he said that only the most heinous and serious crimes, they would not be part of those being freed on these early terms, which begs the question, forces us to focus, do grooming gang rapists not count as the most serious and heinous criminals? Because Fiona, a survivor in Bradford who achieved many convictions in 2019 in the sentencing of some for 12 or 16 years of those perpetrators, she's received a letter, and so have many other victims of sexual abuse in the last week or so, expressing that come the autumn, their perpetrators, their offenders, may be up for this change in the scheme. Now, of course, we remember September 2024, after the new Labour government had come into power, they made changes to the release from prisons. We saw those scenes outside HMP Wandsmouth. Actually, I remember speaking to both of you on that day when we saw prisoners popping champagne outside those prison gates. And I think that forced a bit of a refocus. Is this necessarily the right policy? The government, they told us that they've got 14,000 extra prison places they're building, but also they're dealing with this inherited crisis from the Conservative government, not enough spaces, and so tens of thousands of prisoners were released early. Many of them recalled, of course, as you both remember, as many of our viewers and listeners remember, seeing those scenes of prisoners released and then quickly returned soon after. Some of them actually released and arrested at the gate before being tried for other cases. So it was a cause of major controversy, but I don't think many people expected it to get to this stage, where grooming gang rapists were open to the possibility of having their sentences reduced from 67% to 50% behind bars, or possibly even from 50 or 40% down to just 33% spent in a custodial sentence. So under these changes, anyone with a standardised, determinate sentence, that's someone who a Crown Court judge has said, you will go to prison for X number of years, they are facing a change to how they are being treated. So it's 3 phases: custodial, then there's going to be a period of observation, and then there's licensing as well. And in the middle stage, after the release, which will now be earlier for many of these prisoners, the government says there's going to be a step up in electronic monitoring. Again, that's come under some criticism as well about the effectiveness of that process. But many prisoners will benefit from a 33% release. And again, it goes back to that point we made before, Emily and Tom, about the most serious and most heinous crimes. And that's a point that Nick Timothy, the Shadow Justice Secretary, has picked up on in a letter that he shared with GB News last night in reaction to Fiona's case. He's written to David Lammy to say, this is already going to be an ordeal of great distress for women like Fiona and many other victims who get these letters, because they've now got to wait months to be told if their perpetrators qualify. Now, Fiona told me, she thought she would have years to rebuild her life, to prepare for the decades to come when they are freed. That might now be suddenly shortened very rapidly. And imagine if you are a victim of grooming, gang abuse or organised criminality in some way, thinking that in a matter of months, those men might be back on the streets. Do you need to move home? Do you need to organise better security for your family? Those are the questions that survivors will be thinking around the country.
Can't imagine all the thoughts that go through your head. Please do keep in touch with Fiona, find out if she hears anything else.
Absolutely. Now, a Ministry of Justice spokesman has said this. This government inherited a prison system in crisis, and we are fixing it, building 14,000 more prison places and reforming sentencing so we can always lock up dangerous criminals. Without this decisive action, prisons would have run out of space entirely, putting the public at untold risk.
Under our changes, prisoners who misbehave can face longer behind bars, and those convicted of the most serious crimes will be excluded from earlier release.
We're also strengthening supervision in the community, investing £700 million into probation, recruiting 1,300 additional probation officers this year, and ensuring every prison leaver is tagged unless there is clear reason not to. OK, well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. A union flag ban. Well, the Lib Dem-run Oxfordshire County Council launches a legal bid to stop people flying flags in the street.
Absolutely ridiculous. But after the break, the Church of England has told birth mothers and children affected by historical forced adoptions that it is profoundly sorry for its role in the practice. Stay tuned for the details.
Well, all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Bowl.
They are under no illusion.
Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't go listen to the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
day in, day out. Forget stuffy late-night TV shows. We're giving you a front-row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 28 minutes past 2, and this year, 2026, we're celebrating 5 years of GB News. Our birthday actually was last week.
What was your first day like, Tom? Because you were here from the start. I popped up 2 years later.
My first day, well, it depends what you mean by my first day, because we had, one of my first days was the day that my contract started. Another first day was the day that we filmed promos. Another first day was the day that we were all together doing rehearsals and learning the system. And then another first day was the day that we actually, launched.
Oh, the actual day. You know, you didn't wear a tie to begin with, did you?
I didn't.
No.
I was told, however, by my seniors and indeed betters that I must, and so I did.
And now look at you. So smart. Well, on the 6th of August, we're going to be holding events across the country. And, of course, we want you to join us. So please do save this date, 6th of August, if you want to be the first to hear about the day's plans. They'll be all over the country, so everyone can get involved, no excuses. And scan the QR code on the screen or visit gbnews.com/celebrate.
Absolutely. We'll see you there.
We'll see you there, yes.
Now, the Church of England has apologised for the pain, trauma and stigma caused to those affected by historical forced adoption.
Yes, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Dame Sarah Mullally, said the impact on families had been lifelong for many and noted survivors having spoken of the indignity they faced.
Well, joining us now is the vicar at Christ Church, New Malden, Stephen Kurt. Stephen, for those that don't know, what is the forced adoption scandal?
Well, there were lots of homes into which unmarried mothers virtually always were taken when they got pregnant. A lot of these were either run by dioceses in the Church of England or were affiliated to these dioceses. And while the law forbade enforced adoption, even in the 1950s, 60s and so on, the culture was a different matter, and a lot of these women were put under pressure to give up their children without really being given a choice over that, it seems. And just as badly, they were stigmatised, it seems, or many of them were, and they were treated with terrible pejorative terms like being fallen women and so on. And there was, rather than the compassion that the Church and Christians should always show, there appears to have been something very, very different from that. And I think that's led, rightly in my opinion, to this apology.
And at the time, would these women have known what was going to happen when they were in these homes run by the Church of England? Would they have known that that was going to happen? Were there a lot of women who would refuse initially, but were then forced to give up their child?
I think what was happening, and I'm no expert on this, so I don't want to, speak more fully than I'm informed, but I think what was happening was the culture of the time was to stigmatise women in that sort of situation. So a lot of people would come from families where their parents would think, well, this was the best option. And these homes were available. And I think a lot of parents in this situation would have thought, well, this has happened. The best thing now, perhaps the only thing to do now, is for the child to be taken away and given up for adoption. And for our daughters, if that was the case, to go along to this home to sort of be cared for, but in order for the child to then be taken away. But it sounds as though there wasn't really nearly as much care and compassion as there should have been.
Yeah, it sounds. The church is apologising also for the way the women were treated at the baby homes. terrible conditions, given menial, manual tasks as a form of punishment, even though they were often heavily pregnant. So it was sort of punishment for being pregnant when unmarried as well.
Yes, it's an appalling misogyny that appears to have very often been displayed. I think the apology has been keen to make clear they're not making a blanket condemnation of everyone who was involved. There would have been people, even in the 50s and 60s, who would have shown the right level of compassion and care. At least I hope so. But I think what Sarah Mullally is trying to do, and as a former nurse, she knows all about the importance of care and compassion in looking after people. I think she's wanting to convey without equivocation that terrible treatment was meted out to these people, and the church is desperately sorry. This should never have happened, and we've got to make sure that whenever people fall into circumstances which are of this nature, that they're cared for, that they're surrounded by love and support, rather than receive anything that approaches judgmentalism.
OK. Well, Stephen Kurt, vicar at Christ Church, New Malden, thanks indeed for joining us and explaining some of that for us.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Coming up,
a Union flag ban. Less Lib Dem-run Oxfordshire County Council launches a legal bid to stop people flying flags in the street.
It's just crazy. Why? No, that's next. Your GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Some parts of the UK are going to turn much hotter over the next few days, but for others, a lot of cloud to talk about for today and heavy rain in places because we've got this wriggling weather front that will continue to bring bouts of wet weather to northern parts of the country. To the south of that, rising temperatures and a humid feel. Some sunshine for the far southeast of England, but otherwise a lot of cloud across the UK. Some spots of rain for central and southwestern parts, but it's northern England, North Wales, Northern Ireland, and much of Scotland where we'll see the heaviest and most persistent rain, some rumbles of thunder as well. So a wet day in places, but a muggy day for all of us with temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s towards the south and southeast. That could spark one or two thunderstorms in the far southeast by the end of the day. But for Scotland, well, here it's just cloudy, it's damp for many, the rain turning more showery rather than more persistent. Potential for one or two thundery showers across Northern Ireland through the day and the evening. Northern England, much of Wales, a similar theme. A lot of low cloud, it has to be said, covering the hills and affecting the coasts of the north and west of the UK. So quite dreary, quite gloomy in places, and that continues overnight. The north and west seeing a lot of cloud hugging the hills, causing some sea mist, and then more persistent rain returns to Ireland, Northern Ireland, much of Scotland. Meanwhile, England and Wales mostly dry, rather cloudy, and a warm feel overnight, and uncomfortable night for sleeping. Some reasonable sunshine in the east and southeast during the morning, increasingly so, and that will allow temperatures to quickly rise through the morning. A stark contrast to the northwest of the UK, where we'll see further cloud, further rain, and again some rumbles of thunder. Feeling muggy everywhere, but the highest temperatures will be in the east of England, 31 Celsius possible.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A1 northbound onslip at Old Craighall, restrictions are due to a broken down vehicle. The A55 Britannia Bridge has a speed limit of 30 miles per hour until further notice. The M6 northbound exit slip at Knutsford Services is closed because of an overturned vehicle, with clearance expected mid-afternoon. In Kent, the M25 anti-clockwise entry slip at Junction 2 from the A2 eastbound is closed, with normal conditions anticipated mid-afternoon. And on the trains, disruption continues between Derby and Chesterfield, affecting cross-country and East Midlands railway services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 37 minutes past 2, and a council has started a legal battle to ban residents from raising flags on or near public highways.
Yes, the Oxfordshire County Council has applied for a High Court injunction to stop people placing the flags.
Well, joining us now is the Thames Valley Police and Crime Commissioner Matthew Barber, a Conservative. Matthew, thanks indeed for joining us. Does the council not have a point? I mean, it's their highway, it's not people's own property that they're putting flags up on. I mean, shouldn't they have a permit?
I think there will be lots of people who would agree with that, and plenty of people who say, well, why should people be allowed to get away with it? I think that's perfectly legitimate for the council to seek to take those down. I think the question a lot of people will have is on whether an injunction on flags, particularly those that might just be near the public highway, is a proportionate approach. The fact that it was announced on the day of England's first World Cup football match will perhaps be seen by some as quite provocative. And this is a council who is going to be removing services that are able to keep elderly people in their own homes. They are cutting services in a variety of areas, and residents will argue that whether or not people should be putting the flags up, is this a proportionate approach from the council?
I think it is at all. I mean, I've been driven through and walked through areas of the country where there are flags at the roundabouts and on the lampposts and down the high streets, and I think this is wonderful. It's lovely. Surely our flag is something that everyone can, you know, at least respect in this country. They say, so the council says this is about safety risks, intimidation and distress linked to this activity. The ongoing scale and persistence of the behaviour by Raise the Colours has created safety risks, caused distress within communities and led to abuse and intimidation directed at council teams, residents. So why not deal with those particular individuals that are apparently causing distress rather than take down flags in Britain? I just can't understand that mentality.
I mean, I would agree. Thames Valley Police have intervened and have made arrests where people have been threatening or abusive to council staff, taking those flags down. That is entirely unacceptable. I don't think anybody would think that is okay. I've met some of the people who have put these flags up, and there are a wide variety. And I think this is one of the challenges I see with the county council's approach. There are some very unpleasant people out there putting flags up who no doubt have horrible motives and intend to intimidate people. And there are some other perfectly decent folk out there who might be putting flags on places where they don't have permission to do so, but they don't have any ill intent. And I think it's important that we listen to people's concerns about why they're doing it. It's perfectly reasonable for the council to take those down, but we need to talk to people and understand it. I think what we're doing here is the council is ascribing a particular intention to people's motives rather than looking at what they're actually doing. Yes, they're putting flags up without permission. It's perfectly reasonable for the council to take them down as they have been, and the police will deal with people who are threatening or abusive as a result of that. But they should not be seen as inherently threatening symbols. This is our national flag. Lots of people will be displaying them on vehicles, on their own homes during the World Cup in particular. And I think many people will see an injunction against the use of flags as being disproportionate in the circumstances, particularly provocative at the time of the World Cup. And the council simply need to be consistent. If they want to remove things from street furniture, that's perfectly legitimate, and there are plenty of other bits of advertising and promotion that they should be taking down, as well as the flags. And what we can't do is have one rule for one and one rule for another. We need to focus on what people are doing and take down things that are unauthorised if that's what they want to do, but not by ascribing particular intentions to people which aren't necessarily known.
I wonder, is this council perhaps having far too broad a brushstroke, taking what you've just said there, thinking the very worst of people, that anyone who enjoys our flag, might want to wave our flag, must be some sort of nefarious individual?
I mean, that certainly does seem to be an assumption by some. And I think what's really important is dialogue in this. There will undoubtedly be people who fear people's intent, but it's important that we have a dialogue and understand what people are doing. And I've actually been to events organised in the community that got groups of people together who were opposed to the flying of the flag and those who were actually doing it and putting up the flag. And it was a brilliant evening. We actually got together, we had food together, we talked about people's motives and intentions, and it really brought the community together. And I think what's really important is that we encourage that dialogue and we build that stronger community that we want. And of course there'll be people out there who sadly use our flag for divisive reasons, but we ought to challenge that.
Yeah, but I mean, unless the flag has some kind of horrible words written all over it, then does it really matter what the motive is behind putting the flag up? Because it is just our national flag.
Well, this is the point. We need to look at what people are actually doing rather than trying to look into people's motivations for doing that. I think that's really important. But the council could be involved in trying to bring the community together. And I think the risk is that many people will see this move to seek an injunction as actually being more divisive. And for some people, it will be seen as a them against us. And if you think of the origin of where some of the flag flying came from, it wasn't in Oxfordshire. It wasn't in parts of Thames Valley. It was in other parts of the country where councils took an arbitrary decision to take down some flags and leave other flags in place. So actually, we need to have a really clear approach. I don't think there's anything wrong, and probably the majority of people would agree with, don't hang things on street furniture that doesn't belong to you. That's perfectly reasonable, and that then applies to the adverts for the car boot sales and the landscape gardeners that might be on the lampposts as well. But what's really important actually is about bringing the country together, and we should all be able to have pride in our national flags. Nobody should feel intimidated by that, and I would be the first to challenge those who want to use our national flag to intimidate other people. But I fear that the approach being taken by Oxfordshire County Council is arguably a waste of very restricted council resources, and will be seen by some as actually being more divisive and not bringing it together, but actually seeking to divide further.
Well, Matthew Barber, Thames Valley Police and Crime Commissioner, thanks indeed for joining us.
I like seeing the flag on the lamppost.
Yeah, I drove through Oxfordshire not so long ago, and I did see a bunch of flags, and I have to say it was just quite nice.
Lifted the spirits. What is wrong with people? A council bothering to try and get an injunction, trying to ban these. Surely they have better things to be thinking about. Anyway, Tim Bearder, the leader of the Oxfordshire County Council, says the application is about protecting our residents, our workforce and the values we stand for as a county. We are proud of Oxfordshire's diverse communities and of our council of sanctuary status. We proudly fly the Union flag and St George's flag at County Hall, and we fully support the right of residents to display flags on their own private property.
This activity is not about national pride or unity, it's unlawful behaviour which has caused fear and division within our communities, so says the statement.
Goodness me. Well, time for the Great British Giveaway, £76,543.21. Here's how you can enter.
There's just 2 weeks left to make your summer sensational, as we're giving you the chance to win a simply stunning £76,543.21 in tax-free cash. That's cash that could go towards family treats, spectacular summer days out, or give you the chance to chill out and relax somewhere like here, the Imperial Island Resort in Paphos. You really could be our next big winner with a whopping £76,543.21 in your bank. But hurry, there's just 2 weeks remaining.
For a chance to win £76,543.21 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain. We're on GB News.
Yes, and there's lots more still to come. Indeed, it's Ladies' Day at Ascot, one of the highlights of the racing calendar, and we'll be there live.
I'm still really angry about those flags. I mean, why do they need to come down? They're lovely. They're lovely. It's our flag. It's not divisive.
Yeah, it is strange when that council leader was sort of saying, well, no, we've got to think about our whole community. Why isn't the whole community represented
they say
by that
everyone's
flag?
British, so are they or are they not? Anyway, if you're in search of some holiday sun, perhaps to France where they fly the flag willy-nilly, here's the forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat across some parts of Western Europe will continue to build and spread further north and eastwards through the next few days. Not everywhere seeing the exceptionally high temperatures, but across some parts of Spain into France, temperatures will be around 10 degrees above average for the time of year. And whilst there will be a lot of sunshine around, with that heat and humidity, do watch out for a few thundery showers that are likely to kick off. More sunny and hot weather to come into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Veterinary surgeons and such as yourself, I mean, you're very, very highly trained, but it just feels so expensive when there's something wrong with your animal. And it does also seem that insurance doesn't cover the very things you need.
There's been huge advancements in veterinary medicine. 20 to 30 years ago, we had no CT scanners in practice. We had no MRI machines. Our blood tests were very rudimentary. And for that, you could do that very cheaply. Now we can offer you this incredibly high level of care that comes at a high cost. Everybody wants this extremely high level of care for their pet. Of course, you want the best for your pet. But there's nobody else to pay for that. So if you can be honest and say, I can't do that at that amount of money, we'll find you a way. Yeah. We will.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Lovely to see them all looking rather laid back and informal, wasn't it?
Yes, you know, we're used to all of these grand royal events, and although this was undoubtedly the society wedding of the year, a very low-key event, they deliberately wanted to keep it as a private affair as much as one can when one is a member of the royal family, of course. But it was a private ceremony, it was very intimate, and that's really the way that they've lived, that Peter Phillips has lived his life recently, and I think he wants to continue that. Interesting to note also that in this modern age, this is a blended family at this marriage, because they're both entering this as their second marriage. Of course, Peter Phillips previously married to Autumn Kelly, with whom he has two daughters, Savannah and Isla, who are 15 and 14. They were bridesmaids.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Dorothea, how does it feel being here today, joining other veterans?
It's marvellous, because for years after the war ended, nobody knew that women had even done anything during the war. And also, they suddenly discovered that, good heavens, women have got brains. They can think for themselves and for the country. And it was naturally assumed that everybody would willingly do their bit for England. And they would have. We had one purpose in life, which was to free the world from Nazism.
The People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 to 3. Now we're heading over to the races for Ascot, day 3, and it's Ladies' Day today.
Yes, and our royal correspondent Cameron Walker is, of course, there. Cameron, how's the day going? Is it as delightful as you'd hoped?
Do you know, it has been absolutely delightful, Emily and Tom. Yeah, the weather is slightly overcast, but to be honest, it's a blessing in disguise, because when the sun is out, it is unbearably hot here at Ascot, and you don't want all these beautiful outfits to be ruined, because, as you said, Ladies' Day, now officially called Gold Cup Day, but to most people, it is about the best of British fashion, showing off particularly the ladies with their amazing hats and their amazing dresses from designers right around the country. People have come from right around the United Kingdom as well, and elsewhere, to be here at Royal Ascot Day for Gold Cup. We actually spoke to a number of the guests earlier and to talk through their outfits and also just reminisce about the atmosphere. Take a listen. What is it about Ladies' Day or Gold Cup Day at Royal Ascot that you love?
Well, this is our 4th year now coming, and we just love dressing up and seeing all the wonderful ladies making such a good effort. Everybody looks beautiful.
It's just watching everybody looking absolutely tip-top. I love looking at women who just look incredible. Everybody looks so classy. It's just first time for me. These ladies have been year after year, so it's just super exciting.
First time at Ascot, so I thought red, white and blue got to be. My dress is Fenny from Fatago. I don't know, my shoes are Cafano, I think. And my hat was made by a lady called Hats and Brolly.
What's the inspiration behind the look?
Just Ascot, British, pure British. I got to go for it the first time you're here.
And what is it about Ascot and that makes it kind of the best of British fashion, do you think?
Oh, it's amazing. Everyone just goes full out. We're from York. My husband's there. Look, I've made him dress with a Union Jack tie as well. But we're from York, and so people go for it. But here was a whole new level, so I thought we need to do it.
Well, what a delightful day. We've got some breaking news to end the show.
Yes, we do.
We're sending 150,000 drones to boost Ukraine's air defences.
Yes, a statement just through to us now reveals that the United Kingdom is set to provide 150,000 drones to Ukraine as Kiev steps up strikes on Russia.
Yes, the new Defence Secretary Dan Jarvis has announced Britain's biggest ever package of drones for Ukraine, 150,000 drones, 350 air defence missiles and radars to Ukraine by the end of the year.
Well, it's good to know that we actually have some drones.
Yes, I'm confused.
Of course, the resignation statements of both Al Khan's and John Healey were very concerned about our own capacity. However, I suppose there is an argument in favour of this action for British manufacturing capability. If we can prove that we can build these things, I mean, fine, it's great to have a warehouse full of drones, but actually what matters more if you're to face a war is that you have the manufacturing capability to create loads of these things.
It was reported earlier in the week that we only had 8,000 drones available to us. So,
well, let's get cracking on making them.
Well, we've been building them very quickly by the sounds of things. Anyway, do not go anywhere because this is the end of Good Afternoon Britain, but it is, of course, Martin Daubney who's up next, and he's going to be with you till 6 o'clock.
He is indeed, and there's lots of news to cover. There will be no shortage of entertaining and insightful content there. But first, your latest weather forecast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A muggy feel out there today, and in fact that will continue over the next few days. A lot of low cloud and mist in the north and west. In some places, that will be bringing heavy rain. Now, at the moment, the UK sits on the boundary between an increasingly hot spell across Europe and much fresher Atlantic air, that fresher Atlantic air reaching the far northwest of the UK. But in between, we've got a lot of cloud cover, spells of rain, easing for a time overnight, but then by dawn, we've got heavier rain arriving into Northern Ireland, much of central and western Scotland. Towards the southeast, the chance of some thundery showers at first through the evening, and then it's drier with clear spells. But despite the clear spells, it's going to be a muggy night, an uncomfortable one for sleeping, temperatures staying at 16 or 17 Celsius. We start Friday with this big contrast across the country. A wet start for Scotland with heavy rain at times, especially towards the west, and a lot of low cloud bringing some hill fog and some coastal mist. Northern Ireland, a similarly damp start to the day, even if it's not particularly chilly. Much of England and Wales drier, but we do have extensive low cloud through Wales and the west of England with sea fog and some hill fog as well. A few spots of drizzle out there. Much brighter skies through the Midlands, the east and southeast of England. Extensive sunshine away from the coast and temperatures shooting up through the morning, reaching by the afternoon widely high 20s and low 30s. The hot spot likely somewhere in East Anglia at 33 Celsius. Further northwest, it's going to stay damp through much of the day, but the heavier rain easing for a time, turning more showery, and still that humid feel. Now, the rain that starts the day in the northwest edges into the north and west of England as well as Wales on Friday night. That will eventually fizzle away through Sunday, and although we'll see more wet weather in the north on Sunday, it turns drier and warmer with some exceptional heat in the southeast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab a chance to live the summer of your dreams. With a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in tax-free cash to be won. Someone really has to win it, and it could be you.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. We've got a cracking show, and here's what's on today's menu. Top story today, the evil murderer of baby Preston Davey was today jailed for life with no chance of parole. But in a final insult, GB News can exclusively reveal today that the head of the Children's Service that failed to spot 8 chances to save baby Preston has been gifted a £23,000 golden goodbye payment.
If that was in a private setting, I would imagine that the person probably would have been sacked. There would be no £23,000